Hey, listen, you're all my melons. Don't worry about it. That's a joke for anybody who knows.
Lord of the Rings lore.
Yeah. Do you know what's the Elvish word for friend, Jess?
Penis.
Melon. You fucking melon.
I used to have a fish called Melon.
You're my best melon.
You're my fucking favorite melon, bro. Sometimes I just sit here and I think I'm so thankful for all my melons. You know what I mean?
Hi guys, I'm Jess.
I'm Sinead.
I'm Adam.
I'm Cassie.
And we're
The Movie Rats.
The show where a bunch of crackhead film students talk about films.
Warning. This podcast contains goblins, ghouls, and trolls.
Welcome to the Movie Rats.
Hello, hi.
Welcome to the Movie Rats.
We missed you.
Wow, that was
Happy Christmas.
That was
and
nice.
holidays.
Well, actually, yeah. I mean, Christmas is in 5 days when this comes out, so
We're inclusive. Happy
Well,
holidays.
absolutely
Happy
fucking-
Hanukkah,
holidays,
happy
yes.
Kwanzaa, whatever
whatever
celebration
it is
you want to
that
call it.
want.
Happy that.
Happy that.
Whatever way you celebrate your desired hobby, always make sure you abhor capitalism and its lies, okay? You don't need to buy shit, alright?
Adam's back.
Adam.
Guys, did you hear that?
I know. I like how like
Christmas
his
miracle.
reintroduction is him like bitching about capitalism.
Well, that's
Well,
blue.
it's fuck. It's shit.
All right, so we're gonna go. Okay, so welcome to our season 2 finale.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be a good one. I'm really excited about it. As is Adam. I think Jess and Sinead are a little more like
Silly.
We'll see. So today it's very exciting. We are closing off season 2 in a very big and epic way. But no, it's gonna be good. I think it's gonna be a really solid discussion that we're gonna have.
Yay! There we go. Change the track.
So today we're going to be discussing the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
What's that?
Whoa.
Shut the fuck up. I hate you guys so much. Like anytime I introduce
Well,
anything,
I
you
thought we
guys
were
are always
doing Jurassic Park. Yeah, the
Shut
Jurassic
the fuck
Park
up. You guys
trilogy.
are the worst. So today we're talking about Lord of the Rings trilogy, which is going to be really exciting because we have a lot to talk about. I don't think I've ever had one of our discussions that has more fun facts than I have for Lord of the Rings. It's also, one, because Lord of the Rings just has a lot of fun facts, and two, it's also because I'm obsessed with it. So
That is fair.
anyway,
Valid points have
no,
been
it sounded
made
like
today.
you were doing the Twilight one.
Sorry.
I thought that's what you were doing. Okay, so
No.
all right, so just to give everyone like a little bit of a structure update, as a reminder, our finales do not have segments or NATO Snut of the Week, unfortunately.
No, I'm so
We'll have to
sorry.
wait till next season.
They wouldn't let me. I fought tooth and nail for you guys, but they said no.
But yeah, so
All our
we'll only
listeners
be
just
talking
turned off.
about,
Just,
because there's so much to talk about, we'll only be talking about the movies and the trilogy itself. So we'll start off talking about the actual, the whole thing, and then we'll go into individual movie discussions, which will be kind of fun. So yeah, I guess I'll go ahead and get started in with the fun facts and the stats and stuff.
Give us some.
So it was directed by Peter Jackson. It was produced by Peter Jackson.
Oh, I
and
love
it was
Peter.
adapted by Peter
Oh
Jackson.
my God.
In addition to Peter Jackson, so
Oh my God, did he star in it?
He was
yeah.
in it, yes. He was
In all
he
three
did
of them,
have
actually.
He's
No.
Tommy
Yeah,
Wiseau.
he has some cameos.
Nah, he's a carrot
We'll talk
eater.
about
He
him.
just
We'll talk
eats
about
a few carrots and I get
we'll
shot.
talk about him. So, so he, in addition to Peter Jackson, his wife, Fran Walsh, also worked on adapting the script and producing it with him. The other producers were Tim Sanders and Barry Osborne. And Philippa Boyens also had a hand in adapting the script. And just as one little extra stat that is definitely a little fun fact, the full runtime of all 3 extended editions put together is 681 minutes, or 11 hours and 31
So
minutes.
a long ass time.
I thought it was 12 hours. Wow.
That's a lot.
I mean, there's like
Nice.
conflicting, because I think I found one that was like 11 hours and 26 minutes, but it's around 11 and a half hours is the full
The only way to
runtime
do
of
it
all
is just
3 of
watch them all of it and just time it.
Yeah, I mean,
Simple solution.
Mental torture.
Yeah, but like I feel like you'd get like areas of like error because like you had to like pause it to pee or something, you know, and those wouldn't count.
You think I'm going to pee watching Lord of the Rings? I'll pee
You
my
can
pants.
leave in the middle of
I'll
Pee
fucking
bucket.
sit there. I'll fucking pee bucket.
Okay. So anyway, all right, let's get started into my fun facts. So, what's actually interesting, I mean, this is a little bit of a fun fact about J.R.R. Tolkien, who, if anyone is wondering, which I would be very
He
upset
wrote
if
it.
someone was actually wondering, J.R.R. Tolkien wrote the
He wrote
book
it.
series.
He did.
So basically, the creation of like Lord of the Rings, the Silmarillion, the whole worlds, like the universe of Lord of the Rings, was written basically as just like his background in order to explain these two Elvish languages that he had created. So he created these two languages because he studied linguistics and he like and so he created these two Elvish languages, and he was like, in order to give them like, you know, like meaning and a background, he was like, well, now I have to create this world.
That's not normal people thinking.
He been through the war.
So
Oh,
there's
he
that.
was.
There's that, and well, also like one of the things like he wanted to achieve is that a lot of other countries had like a mythology
Yeah,
behind
exactly.
like the country.
And the languages
and-
themselves, yeah.
Yeah, but England kind of lost a lot of theirs during like the Roman invasion.
Right.
You think that stopped them from invading other countries, wouldn't you?
Anyway, we're not.
So he was like, I want to create a mythology
Was he
for...
not from New Zealand?
No, he's from England.
No, he's from
New Zealand does play a part in this, though.
The producers
Oh
and
my
like
God.
basically the entire production was New Zealand, but no.
Okay, we got one
J.R.R.
thing
Tolkien
right.
is British. So
Yeah.
anyway,
And he wanted to create a mythology for England because like
because
England
a lot
didn't
of it
have
was
one.
I think it's fascinating that like literally this
I'm gone.
entire like just epic came from he was like, I have a language, I should probably explain it, you know. Next fun fact. So Miramax was originally the production company that was supposed to produce it. They had pitched it to the Weinstein brothers. And they were attempting to, I think they had originally done, because Peter Jackson was like, he was talking with Miramax about doing it. And the Weinstein brothers pitched it as a 2-movie, like a duology, instead of a trilogy. But they ended up not having the budget for it, and ended up giving up the project. And that's when New Line Cinema ended up picking it up. And which is obviously good because it would have been connected with Harvey Weinstein, which would have been very upsetting. But also
one
because
really wants
Peter Jackson
that.
actually talked a lot about the fact that he's really glad that he didn't end up working with them because he was quoted saying that Harvey Weinstein was very like he was kind of like a bully and all that, which is unsurprising.
Horrible to work with.
Unsurprising, yeah. So anyway, next fun fact.
really.
So in the adaptation process, there were so many rewrites of this script. Like it basically up until they finished shooting, they were still continuously rewriting the script. Like basically every single week of the shoot, there would be a new script that was given to the actors like the day of. But what's
No, I
really
don't
nice
like
about it
that.
is that what's really nice about it, though, is that the actors were encouraged to express their ideas. Like, they would have, like, you know, basically, like, a writer's room type meetings, like, weekly and all that, and the actors would come in and express their ideas about their own characters and their storylines and, like, you know, that kind of stuff. So that was, like, it was really, really, like, a collaborative effort. Like, all of the actors have talked about how they felt very, like, listened to, and all of their ideas were, like, you know, genuinely, like, considered. So I thought that was really nice because that doesn't happen
That's
a lot,
quite
like,
sweet.
you know, where the actors are genuinely brought in to like, you know, help create the story. Which I think is
No, they're
really
like,
helps the
"Dance
actors in
monkey."
themselves because they feel so connected to the characters because they've helped create them. So anyway, this I thought was kind of funny. So I'll read it out to you guys. The Beatles wanted to star in an
Oh my
adaptation.
God, I heard of this.
And they asked Stanley Kubrick to direct it. Kubrick declined, feeling that the book was unfilmable, which was a theme amongst the filmmaking community. A lot of people didn't ever attempt it up until it was made
Pussies.
because they thought it was unfilmable.
Well, they did have CGI, in
That's true.
fairness,
Yeah, fair.
as well.
But yeah, so the cast would have been Paul McCartney as Frodo,
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's kind of cute.
George Harrison as Gandalf, Ringo Starr as Samwise, which I don't know why that doesn't surprise me.
That makes sense for Ringo. Ringo was so see
The
himself
best
as
one
Sam.
is John Lennon as Gollum.
That's me. But
So-
I'd love to see that. That should be like a music video for the Beatles. Somebody
No.
get onto
Sorry.
them. Somebody tell them.
Sorry,
Somebody
half of them are gone.
somebody
gonna say,
ring up all the
what's that?
Beatles right now, please.
Someone bring them out from the
Where
dead
are
so
they? What
can
are they
record
doing
that.
right now anyway? Like, might as well do it, you know?
What else did they?
Anyway, so
disappeared.
they stated a lot about, because like, you know, the movies do diverge a lot from the books. They received a lot of criticism for that, but the writers also came out saying that like anything that they really added to the original like transcript of the books was genuine. It was more just to explain character and culture in order for it to make it more visually understanding to the people who are watching it, because they didn't have as much exposition. They didn't have all the descriptions and stuff, because Tolkien
Yeah, the
was
books are
renowned for being
full of exposition.
extremely descriptive. Yeah. So, my next point. So several CGI softwares themselves were like generated and like entirely created for these movies. So there
That
was
checks
a
out.
software called Massive that was created to like do all the crowds, and of course like Gollum in himself was like an entirely like was a groundbreaking like effort in
little baby
CGI
boy.
at the time. So, and we'll get a little bit into that when we get to discussing Gollum as a character. So this I thought was like, this is a crazy fact, and it's fairly well known, but it just like, it's definitely something that we have to discuss, is the fact that all of 3 films were filmed simultaneously.
What
They
do
were
you
all
mean?
filmed back to
what?
back. Like all 3 of them were like when they were still filming the first film before the first film came out. They were also shooting like scenes from like the 3rd film,
That makes
and
me feel
like
sick.
you know, it was like it took. So they had a shoot lasting it was like 274 days for principal photography, so in 16 months.
You know what?
It began
In my mind, that doesn't seem too bad.
It began in August
He's
of
right.
99, and principal photography for all 3 movies ended in December of 2000. And the first movie came
Fuck,
out
it's
in
mad to
2001.
think in 1999 they started filming that, you know what I mean?
I wasn't born.
That's crazy.
Neither
So-
was Jess.
I wasn't born when the movie came out.
What the fuck? What? Are you Oh, what the fuck?
So
I
anyway,
wasn't born either.
so yeah,
Jesus.
they stopped
In the womb.
recording.
Yes.
So principal photography ended in 2000. The first movie came out in December of 2001, and they continued doing pickups for the rest of the films up until 2003, and then the last movie was released.
2003, yeah.
But I mean, that's absolutely
That's
insane.
a fucking, that's a tight deadline, actually.
It is
to
a really
be
tight deadline.
Doing
and,
pickups right up until 2003.
So the New Zealand government created a minister for Lord of the Rings because
Sick.
literally the amount that it like impacted their economy was like unbelievable. So they like literally they created this minister in order to like have someone like literally be in charge of like taking advantage of the like economic opportunities that the movies created.
I was gonna say I would alright. There's not much in this world I wouldn't give to have the title of Minister of Lord of the
for
Rings.
Lord of the Rings.
I'd be like, yes.
Like,
could you
no
imagine?
question.
Can you imagine like fucking like if anybody wants to interview me and then just title card?
Minister of Lord of the Rings.
Minister of
They're
Lord
like,
of the
yes,
Rings.
that's me.
So what's interesting about and once like I said, we'll get into like all of this discussion in a little bit, but so we'll talk about score in a second. But the composer was Howard Shore. He scored all
Not
3
Enya?
movies.
She did sing though.
She did work a lot, actually very heavily with them. Also,
Okay.
apparently Bjork had some input in
Oh
the
Fuck
score.
yeah.
I love
So-
Bjork.
Anyway, I don't think she did any songs for them, but she approved a couple of the like the artists. So anyway, so normally like a composer's like involvement in films tend to do like, you know, like up to 2 months worth of involvement either during production or in post-production. But Howard Shore's involvement like stretched back to like 97 when they actually initially started the like
Wow.
the
He's
pre-production
committed.
process.
Well,
So
here's
he
the thing.
had been with that for
Yeah.
like, and he
An
like
OG.
basically they put him up at a house, like he was living in New Zealand for like years.
They
Well,
put
the-
him in a mountain to get the vibe and the feel for the movie.
The
Took
it's
all
like-
of it.
it's kind of weird
There you
because Lord of the Rings, like, if you read the book anyway, is a musical. It's definitely a musical. Like,
I'm so
without
glad
a
they
shadow
didn't
I
of
don't
a
know
make
that
it
it's a
musical.
musical.
I'm
Cassie?
There's
so
a lot
glad
of
they didn't make
songs
it.
Cassie?
in it.
It's a musical. Okay?
Because when Sam goes, hey, diddle diddle, the cat and the fiddle, the cat jump over the moon.
All right.
That's the first musical.
Okay, so to give you an idea of the scale of the production, the crew, not counting any, like, all of the cast and the extras and all that, just the crew amounted to over 3,000 people,
Oh.
of which, like, around 300 were art department.
Oh my god,
That's
yes,
a lot
art
of people.
department.
Yeah,
Art
department.
Department. Keep
Because like
working.
the designs of the armor and the designs of the weapon and the
wicked
designs of
good.
the clothes are
Wicked
fucking
cool.
amazing.
It's so cool.
Just
Nice.
perfection.
Plus, one of the things I really appreciate about Lord of the Rings, as opposed to like maybe some other like crazy fantasy stuff,
Twilight.
all the like weapons and all are like super practical. Like
Mhm.
they're fucking
They're
weapons.
all real.
You know, they're not like mad looking. Like even they
Well,
managed
all follow
to
the
like
lore of
make
where
them.
the cultures that they came from too.
Yeah.
So, in addition, like, you know, going off of that whole, like, you know, giving you an idea of the scale. So, the amount of footage that was produced for, like, you know, just from the principal photography, I believe, not even pickups, which were quite a lot as well. So they filmed on an Arri Flex 435, and they filmed on 35 millimeter film. So,
Ooh, that's nice.
That's
yeah.
good.
and they produced 5 million feet of film.
Wow. Wow.
That's a lot.
Just from principal to photography. That's crazy. That's so much footage. I think that's it for my fun facts for the trilogy itself. I do have some fun facts for just for
Really?
like the individual movies themselves. But let's go ahead and start talking just like about the trilogy itself. We can talk about like the overall production. Like, yeah, we can talk about the art department and stuff. Because when we get into the actual individual movies, I want to talk about like individual elements of things that actually happen in those movies.
So should we talk about the story? So
the story is about the story.
So
is
in the
about,
beginning there
the
was
story
Eru
is about-
Ilúvatar,
the story
and then
is
Eru
about-
Ilúvatar split himself
story
into the Valar
It's
spirit.
about there's an evil ring and they have to destroy it.
perfect. Love it.
Mhm.
Absolutely
She's not
beautiful.
wrong.
It was gorgeous.
It's a little bit more
It's
complex
true.
than
That
that,
was
actually.
that was a good like.
Oh, yeah,
concise,
actually,
like
yeah.
yeah. So anyway, I'll start off with just like my experience with the films. So I know that we've all talked about this before, especially in like the very first episode where we were talking about like what got us into film. But I mean, Lord of the Rings genuinely is the reason that I do film, and it like. I think when I was younger and I, used to watch all like, the 9 hours of bonus features and stuff like that are on the extended edition, like discs and stuff. I was kind of like, I was still like absolutely like blown away by like just the scale of the production and all that. But especially like rewatching them again, like now when I actually work in film, like it's absolutely like just breathtaking the amount of like detail, effort, like passion, care that went into these movies. And like just the like creativity as well, like the innovative ideas that they had to come up with in order to make a production like this, because it was made in 2000, like 1999 and 2000. That is not like they did not have the technology that they have now. They didn't have like even like all the post-production stuff. They did not have like CGI. They didn't have like on-set motion capture. Like they had to. And what was great about it is that. And what I really appreciate about Peter Jackson is that, like, in general, he really was, like, determined to make it, like, perfect in the sense that, like, if there was something that needed to happen, they were going to figure it out. There wasn't like, practically, like, do we need that? Like, it's fine, whatever. Like, he was just like, no, we're going to have this. So, for example, actually, I mean, this isn't necessarily, like, a fun fact, but this is talking about how like Peter Jackson was so determined to like put it seems like the amount of effort that he put in to get like specific shots is like a lot of people would just be like, that's too much, like that's not worth it, but like that's what I feel like makes the movie so great. And one example of that is like, so obviously and we can talk a lot about this and like as we can get more into this as well, but the techniques for scale in like the sizes of the people. Hobbits never get basically more than like 4 feet tall. Like they're smaller creatures.
Short
and
kings.
So obviously the actors that they had play them were regular sized people. I think it said that they averaged around like 5'6" was their height. So they obviously had to have certain techniques in order to like scale them correctly to like humans and to elves and to all that. So in addition to like using body doubles and like like for like the scale doubles, as well as like making the sets like big and small and doing like compositing things with like green screen and all that kind of stuff. And some like, you know, special effects with like, you know, compositing like, you know, the actor's head or face onto like the scale double's body in like certain shots and stuff. The most, first of all, the most like difficult and the most interesting technique that they used was forced perspective, which basically, which basically when you have someone further away from the camera so they look smaller.
Thank you, Sinead.
I'm trying to do something in theme.
But like basically,
for example, how large. No, now she looks small. Never mind.
But basically, so what is interesting about this, and this is the reason that I brought it up now when I'm talking about like Peter Jackson's like determination to do certain, like to put a lot of effort into certain things, is the fact that forced perspective only works if you're stationary, like if the camera is stationary, like they're just like, because the second that it moves, you start understanding the perspective of where people are. So they basically had to do like these crazy like rigs where they would like, and there's a scene or there's a shot where like Frodo and Gandalf are in Bag End and they're talking to each other, like looking at each other, and the camera's like slowly like panning. And so
which is
they made
extremely
this rig,
hard to do with forced perspective.
They made this rig that like lots of math was involved in order to like, as the camera moves, the set itself also moved so that the like what you saw on the camera, like literally it stayed basically, the forced perspective was constantly still like in play, which is just absolutely insane. Like literally for one shot, he could have had just a stationary camera. Like he did not need to have a moving shot. Moving shots.
It's like
Peter Jackson, a man after my own heart. But like
it'd be like you know those like the like street art that's done in a way so that it looks like a picture from one direction and like not from the other. But somehow they move the entire painting.
That's
I'll fucking kill myself on this camera right now.
No, but it's just like that baffles me, like the amount of effort that he put in for like small things like that, which definitely weren't necessary, but it really just added to like the like beauty of the movies and like what made them so amazing, because it's like it's amazing cinematography that was not at all hampered by the techniques that they had to use, which I absolutely love that.
Since I was a wee baby when this came out, my brothers were really into it. I've got scarred from this movie, mainly like The Return of the King.
Why?
Oh, sorry.
I'm just asking.
How is that not traumatizing for a 3-year-old?
It's scary.
I think I was 4. But yeah, no clue what was happening, but only that one scene when Smeagol turned into Gollum, and I would have recurring nightmares that he's underneath my bed.
No, he's scary. I don't like
fair.
him either.
That's creepy.
But then
He just wanted
dream,
the birthday present.
No, one dream, he was going to stab me, but I said no, and grabbed the knife blade in my hand and stabbed him.
He's just like, I'm gonna stab you. You're like, no,
No.
it's not happening today.
That's my
I
funny
love
story with Lord
Gollum's
of the Rings.
character though.
I mean, fair enough.
Then I was 12, and then I got into it because I understood it.
Okay, good.
I watch it every Christmas. Every Christmas is always on.
Oh, I love that, yeah.
ITV2.
Well, actually, it got to the point where, like, me and my sister and my dad would watch it so often. My sister stopped watching it with us because she was like, we're watching it too often, you guys. And I'm like, you can never watch Lord of the Ring too often.
It's way better than the
disagree.
Okay, I'm going to say I like Lord of the Rings better than the Hobbit movie.
The movies,
think
yeah,
everyone does.
absolutely.
Oh my god. Like, that's not even...
okay.
There's no contest. Lord
Okay,
of the Rings is...
fine.
Okay, and so, actually, that's a good point to make, too. Because, like, we're not talking about The Hobbit, so I won't get into that. But it's genuinely just... So what I think made The Lord of the Rings so much better than The Hobbit, first of all, is the fact that I think Peter Jackson was copying out a little bit with The Hobbit. Like, he didn't need to make 3 movies. And
Yeah, but no, he didn't want to either. Nobody wanted to. That movie was a train wreck because it was supposed to be 2 movies directed by Guillermo del Toro, and I think that would have been fantastic
But
because,
anyway.
as you know from a film we have reviewed, Pan's Labyrinth, he's very good at like a fantasy
stuff, yeah.
element.
Very
But, like,
good,
It would have looked
period.
amazing.
I think the
So
big...
Peter Jackson came in and had to pick up the pieces of a broken movie. You know what I mean?
What
So,
happened too is just like
happens.
overall, like they were just relying too much on nostalgia in order to make it good, and so there was a lot less effort put in. But I think like the big thing that really makes it just no contest that The Lord of the Rings is better is actually the challenges that they faced making these movies in 1999 and 2000 versus the Hobbit movies, which were made in the teens, like were made recently with a lot more like technology.
I'll never
and stuff.
forgive
because
the Hobbit.
they had to
Never.
be more. Because they had to be more creative, like the techniques that they used and the like solutions that they had to come up with because they didn't have the technology, and like the fact that they had to do so many things way like practically versus doing, you know, just like being like, we'll fix it in post. Because you can fix things in post, sure, but like you shouldn't ever rely on that. It should always you get the best thing you can possibly get while you're filming, and then you do what you can to make it better in post. And that's the problem, I think, is like nowadays with films, with modern films and the technology that we have, it opens up the possibility for the types of films that you can make and the types of like stories that you can tell, but it also hampers you a lot too, because you rely so much on that it ends up like taking away from the craft of filmmaking. And like the craft of like, you know, set design and costume design and like just the creativeness, like I was saying with the Hobbit, like the techniques in making the Hobbit smaller, like they probably wouldn't really have tried to do most of that because they're just like, we can probably just composite it in post, it's whatever.
That's
you know?
the thing, like I think like necessity kind of breeds creativity in that way. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And as well as that, and like sorry, I know we're talking about the Hobbit too much, but another thing would be the effect of Hollywood. Hollywood fucking ruined The Hobbit because they said we need 3 movies, not 2. Nobody does 2 movies. And then they said, but nobody knows it's like a Lord of the Rings thing, and everybody likes Lord of the Rings. So can you just put Legolas in there as well?
That
and can you
so
also
annoying.
Yeah. Oh, we also need like a romantic interest. So can you just make up this entire new elf and have her like be in love with the dwarf
sexy
real quick?
dwarf.
It was
Around the corner
just
from
a
me.
sexy dwarf.
Okay.
No, I do agree in the fact that like just they let influences affect the movie. They let like expectations affect the movie. Whereas I think when they were making Lord of the Rings, first of all, everyone was like, "Oh, it's unfilmable,"
Expected
so
it to
there
be
were no
shit.
expectations. But like, so that also like, you know, in everyone who made The Hobbit's defense, there were a lot of expectations that they were that ended up affecting their decisions. But like with Lord of the Rings, they just like, they didn't have any expectations. And also not only that, I think it was genuinely like, they were all so passionate about the project itself. Like down to, there's actually a fun fact that I have. There were these 2 like art department employees who made all of the chainmail. And they literally, like, they hand, like, assembled the tiny little rings individually to each other. Like, to the point where they had actually, like, I think they, like, rubbed off the fingerprints on their, like, index and thumbs. On, like, their index fingers and thumbs. It literally, these two people in the art department, for 12 months, every day, came in and spent, like, 10 hours putting little tiny rings together every day for 12 months, for a year.
That's borderline. Like, I'd end my life.
And the
my
world will burn in the fires of
They
industry.
were interviewed as well for it, and they were just like, no, it's more genuinely just the fact that, like, we care so much about it, and we want it to be, like,
that's quite
this beautifully crafted movie, and that we want to have this effort put in, because we can also say that we had a hand in creating something like this. And I think that that's amazing, because it's like people were willing to like make those sacrifices in their, like, you know, in like, in their jobs.
Did they get to keep any of the?
In order, I'm assuming they probably did. I don't know.
Probably
for sure.
Stole it all.
But yeah, like, it's just the amount of like just care that everyone who worked on the production had. And I think when it came to The Hobbit, a lot of people who were working on it because it was like a big Hollywood project.
Fucking
and that
cash
was the
crop,
reason.
yeah.
It's not because they wanted to make The Hobbit. It's because they wanted to make a big film that would make a lot of money.
Fucking capitalism.
And I think that that's a
isn't
lot of the big problem there. Like, that's why I agree. Like, there's absolutely no contest. Lord of the Rings will always trump.
I like Hobbit though.
Trump.
It's just that I
Don't
don't.
mention that
It will
name.
absolutely always trump The Hobbit. So I think so. Most of my discussion for like the general trilogy comes in with just production, because when we talk about the story, we'll talk about each individual film. But some other things that I wanted to talk about while we're still talking about the series itself. I mean, it's mainly like it's the art department. The art department was like above and beyond. Literally one of the best art departments ever.
Without a doubt.
Because just the craft that they put into it, like, you could feel the difference in the cultures. Like, you could feel the difference in, like, you could feel the, like, the history in all of the, like, props and stuff. Like, all of the weapons, all of the costumes, like, all of the
and it
sets,
would have been,
like, you could feel the history in them, and you could feel the differences in the culture. Like, the, like, elves, not even just, like, dwarves versus elves, but in the, like, the Rivendell elves and the Lothlorien elves. feel different.
And even like to go through the effort of making both those elves different and making both the human factions vastly different.
Exactly, like Rohan and Gondor.
Rohan and Gondor are like totally different. Like you could, like if you had the two in front of you, you could easily be like, oh, that's Rohirrim.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
a Gondorian
And
soldier.
I love that they put that kind of craft in, because like in order to create a world like that, in order to create a world like that, you really do have to like think of the history. And like, I mean, that comes a lot from Tolkien as well. And actually one of the things that I think really, really helps their art department and just like the general look of the film is that they hired the conceptual artists that like were the lead of basically all of the designs in the film were, I believe it was John Howe and Alan Lee. And they were two like of the most renowned like Tolkien artists that would like do like conceptual art from the books directly. And they hired them on to basically design everything.
That is a fucking fan artist dream. Can you imagine like drawing pictures of like, this is what I think this cool guy looked like from your favorite book, and then somebody going,
the director's
you
just
want
like,
a fucking job?
Come and design the movie.
I'd be like
and I think it's like the amount of like, because they were always very specific about being true to the books as well, which I think helped considering the fact that the movies had to be changed in order to make them like filmable. And like, but the fact that they had conceptual artists that were like adamant about making things that were true to the book's descriptions really added to the lore, because the reason that the lore of Lord of the Rings is so beautiful is because Tolkien made a masterpiece. And if you had people that were coming in just being like, I don't care, Tolkien did his own thing, I'm just gonna create something that looks cool. You have to really like care about like where it's coming from and the world building, because I think a lot of the things
that's one of the best aspects of Lord of the Rings is that like you can feel the depth of the world. It's not surface level. The story on its own, the plot stands as it is, but you can just feel like how much there is in the world.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
And that's like,
this is not the only thing going on in the world, and it's not the only thing that's ever happened in the world.
There's things that's happened before. And I think like, I mean, obviously the exposition helps in that because it's telling some of the history, but just in general, like you can feel it. And I think that's kind of how, like at one point we were talking.
Since I'm recording, are we talking?
Fuck off!
No. Wait, maybe.
Who's that, Jess?
No,
is it your mom? Oh.
Back off! What's her name again?
Rebecca.
Am I? The neck?
Neck on you?
Are you sure? Yeah, no, spring neck. Oh, I do. I'm so sorry. Very sorry. Bye. She just want the powder.
Is Sinead frozen again? Look at her. She's so cute. Oh, there she is. No, she's not frozen. It's okay.
She looks like
she's
so
part cute.
Of the
Look at her.
trilogy
She's
back
so
there.
cute.
Part of the fucking fellowship, I mean.
Anyway, okay, so, what was I saying?
Taking out Pippin. That's grand with me.
And squashing them off.
That's fine with me. Fuck off, Pippin.
But
that's
yeah,
alright with
like,
me.
it's kind of like when we were talking about, like, when we were talking when we were discussing Frozen 2 and how we really felt that the writers were creating, like, a backstory that they were choosing what to tell in the movie, but they had this whole, like, thing that they had created. And, like, that's really important in world building, is that you create a universe and then you pick and choose the things that you say so that you can feel, like, the weight of, like, there's so much more rich history in it. And I think that the art department really just killed it in making sure that the movie looked like it was a real universe, that it had history, that it was, like, a genuine, like, it was a story that was being told of something that had actually happened, you know? It really felt real. And I think that was, like, oh my God, it was beautifully done. So talking about the art department, though, one thing that they did actually create, so it was like, I mean, they I don't know if they like coined the term or whatever, but they're called bigatures, because technique
that's a bit dodge.
Well, actually, and that's one of the techniques that kind of going back to when, like, you know, I was saying that, like, the technological limits that they had in early 2000. The like scale of like the sets and stuff, like, for example, like all of the like towers and all of the like castles and all that kind of stuff, those were made with miniatures rather than CGI, which I think is so important, because you literally create the actual world. You have you have model makers, modelers, model people.
We prefer it to be called miniature toy nerds.
So anyway,
I don't know.
All right, whatever. Miniatures. But yeah, they had like artists come in and basically
models.
create
they are
like,
models
of like all of
Miniature
the like
modelers,
sets and places and all that, and they were so detailed, and they would make like scales of like, you know, they'd be like, there's some that would be like literally like as small as like like a, you know, like my desk, like it would be really small, and then there'd be like some that were literally as big as like the warehouse that they housed them in.
Yeah,
like,
I think Helm's Deep had about 3, and one of them was very small. One of them was like table size, and the last one was like as big as like a house or something.
When it was like the model for Helm's Deep was, I think it was like a 170, like it was 72nd scale, like
that would be the small one.
1/72nd scale. That was a small. There was also like, I think it was like but like the model for like Minas Tirith, that was like a 1/135th scale or something like that, and it was still the size of the warehouse.
Yeah,
like
Minister
crazy.
Be big.
But the amount of detail that they were able to put into these kinds of things, they would also make like smaller parts of the sets in like slightly bigger scales and stuff in order to get like detailed shots. But the fact that they had to do that, they did that rather than CGI, I feel like really adds to like the feel of the movies as well, because you can feel that they are real places. Whereas like things like Game of Thrones, where like the world's building is really great and all that, and like the film, like, you know, the set and the art department and all that did a really great job in that. All of the massive sets were done in CGI. Like you never see like the full red keep when you see in Game of Thrones. That's all CGI. Like they have small sets and stuff,
CGI.
like for the interiors or for like smaller parts of like. But like
stupid.
when you see the like full like castle of the red keep, like that's all CGI. And that never happens in Lord of the Rings. Almost every single set was built in a miniature, and I love that. Exactly.
Yeah. Practical effects are like like when you have movies that blend practical effects with like mostly practical with like some CGI, they always end up holding up the best.
That's always the best, exactly.
Like another fantastic example is Jurassic Park, 1993. That movie was made and looks absolutely fantastic because the amount of practical effects they
limitations, and
yeah.
like they made things work and then would embellish them. But anyway,
the video game.
Which one?
The PC. Is it the Lord of the Rings?
I love
PC game?
Battle for Middle Earth. Oh my god,
fuck.
I played that.
Don't get me started. Did you play that game?
Recently, I never played.
You played Battle for Middle Earth?
I heard of it, and I heard it was really hard.
It was so fun.
It was deadly. It's what started my interest in strategy games, man. Battle for Middle Earth is the shit. By the way, I'm gonna tell you this now. I'm coming out right now on stream. This is me coming out. I play the miniature model version of Battle for the Ring for Lord of the Rings. I have a ton of Lord of the Rings models.
Real quick before we move into the individual movies, I do want to talk just a little bit about the casting because I do have some fun facts about the casts.
Oh, give us those fun facts. I'm excited.
So, okay. This one is important to me because I couldn't imagine Aragorn being anyone else other than Viggo Mortensen. But Viggo Mortensen was a last-minute cast. He was cast when they had already started production. Like, he was... So basically... It was Stuart Townsend was originally cast, but he was deemed too young. Peter Jackson thought that they needed someone older to play Aragorn, and so they ended up casting Viggo Mortensen.
He's supposed to be like 87.
87. But, I mean, he's also like...
Damn, dermatologists must hate him.
Yeah, I know, actually, they do.
All right, so anyway, but...
when you have the blood of Numenor, essentially, okay.
Anyway, but yeah, Viggo Mortensen actually almost didn't take the role, though. I mean, it was because his son had read the books and wanted him to be in the films that he ended up taking it. So he almost wasn't Aragorn, which I can't even imagine these movies without Viggo Mortensen.
Yeah.
Because, like, I mean, we'll talk a little bit about Viggo Mortensen personally,
have you
like,
seen the clip?
As a person later, but, like, that man is an artist.
Casting. I have a question about casting for you little bitches, because we know
what
I can't handle these movies. Is it true Sauron was meant to be like a person, but like
he is.
They like just cast him as like an eye because everyone was like he'd be too sexy. They'll like him too much.
Maybe not the reason they cast him as an eye.
Well, I could understand that in a way because Sauron would just look like an elf. That's him out of his armor. He would just look like an elf. He would be hot. Oh, he was hot. It was well known. Everyone was like, fuck, he's hot.
Look him up.
Me too.
What's his name?
Yeah, look up Sauron. He's hot.
Anyway.
Look up Sauron out of armor. Hot. Put in brackets hot. You'll find it, I swear.
We'll talk a little bit about this in a second because because we'll get more into like Aragorn as a character later, but like he was a really good horseman. Like he would like come in early and like take care of his horse and like groom them and all that kind of stuff. Like he was so dedicated. Like he was really, and he was basically Viggo Mortensen was like a huge method actor, would like leave the set with like his sword and everything.
For a second I thought you said a huge meth head.
No, but he would get like stopped by like he would get stopped by like the police and stuff, and they'd be like, "What the fuck, you walking around with this fucking sword?" And he's just like, "Don't worry, I'm in a movie." But so some fun facts that I think that you guys will actually really enjoy. Jake Gyllenhaal auditioned for the role of Frodo.
Ew!
For who?
Jake
Frodo.
Yes, Frodo.
Nice.
This is another one that I think will make you guys laugh. Vin Diesel auditioned for Aragorn.
Fuck yeah, of course he did. My God. For Frodo, yeah?
Who?
Oh,
Wait,
for
no,
Aragorn.
For
Oh,
Aragorn?
yeah,
Okay,
sick.
okay,
I could
okay.
so see that.
Did
you
No, I want that
Frodo.
version also.
Wait.
Hello.
Frodo.
Fuck off, Dom.
Frodo.
We're recording now. I'm sorry. Thanks for the coffee. Can I have some? Or do I see you later?
Wait, who did Jake Gyllenhaal audition to play?
Frodo.
That's really cute.
I told him that.
Could you imagine Jake Gyllenhaal's like eyes, like just like Sam?
Anyway,
Scary.
okay, so right, like, okay, so Vin Diesel auditioned for Aragorn. I thought that would make you guys
Our
smile.
favorite guy.
I like
what's
that.
Okay, so I have a few others that, okay, so Gandalf was offered to Sean Connery and Sir Patrick Stewart, which I wouldn't have been mad about, but Ian McKellen,
I
Sir
would
Ian
like Sir
McKellen
Patrick Stewart.
is
Yeah,
Gandalf.
I
I don't
agree.
mind him, but Ian
Yeah.
McKellen's good.
Christopher Lee also, he auditioned for Gandalf.
But he was too old.
He loves, I think he carried a copy of Lord of the Rings in his robe. Or was that Ian
Aw.
McKellen?
Well, actually, on that point, though, Christopher Lee was the only person who actually, like, knew Tolkien. Like, he had met him and knew him. Like,
That's
he was
cute.
so versed in the lore. Like, he knew the books back, like the back of his hands. Like, he was super
He knew it
versed in
like almost as good as me.
I can guarantee he knew them better because you've never actually read the
Well, he
entire
could
book
ask
series.
Tolkien
I actually
Like,
have.
cover to
I
cover.
actually. When's the last time you talked to me?
Okay, now you have, but at the age, like,
Now
you
I
just did. So
have.
guarantee that Christopher Lee knew more than
Now
you.
I have.
So anyway, so last little like tidbit about like the casting and stuff, because technically this isn't casting, but I just wanted to bring up the Peter Jackson cameos.
Mm-hmm.
So he has a cameo in each film, and I can tell you where the cameos are in case anyone's wondering. So in the first one, when they're walking through the streets of Bree, there's like a really quick shot where like a dude like is eating a carrot, like kind of stumbles into frame and then stumbles out of
That's
frame,
him.
and that's Peter Jackson.
That's Pete.
Aww.
Peter.
In the second film, he is a soldier on the walls of Helm's Deep throwing spears down at the Uruk-hai.
That's Peter.
Wait.
Very aggressively too. Like there's a scene where
Yeah,
he's
he's like,
"Ah!" It's like literally looks crazy. But anyway, and then in the third one, he's one of the pirates that gets shot. I don't actually know. I don't think that was in the theatrical version. I think that was in the extended version.
yeah.
So yeah, he wasn't in the theatrical version of the third one,
I
but
just
he
say-
was one of the he got shot with one of Legolas's arrows.
I do appreciate they release an extended version. Like with stuff with books, like I
Yeah.
kind of wish for the Harry Potter films they done like an extended version or something like that. It's just like they're able to go in more details for the fans, but they understand like theater release it might be too much.
Well, and I think what's also like important about that too is that when they were doing the theatrical release, because I think the original cut of the first film was like 4.5 hours, and they had to like break it down and all that. And when they had to go back into like the writers' room to kind of figure out what they needed to, what they could take out and could afford to take out, they were like, okay, the first film needs to focus on Frodo and the Ring and his journey. Like if it's not a story about that, like it goes. And so that's how they brought it down to the theatrical version, is that everything that happens in the movie has to have some sort of Frodo-centric like plot in it. And so a lot of the extended scenes that were kind of side stories and stuff that were put in the extended version are important to like the story and the lore itself and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But what I think is really important about like the theatrical version too is just the fact that they really like they made like a movie that tells a story, like one story, versus the extended versions, which like you said, are really in service to the fans of the book series or just fans of the entire like, you know, the franchise itself that really just wanted more.
The thing about the extended edition was like that's what made me because how I began reading like the books was a really dumb way, because I liked reading books when I was younger. Like I read The Hobbit, like that's one of my favorite books ever, and then The Lord of the Rings was like a little intimidating for me, and it's very boring at the start. It's fucking horribly boring
it is really
at the
hard to
start
get through.
until you get to Tom Bombadil, and then it's like yeah. But so the way I started reading them was literally, I'm like, what the fuck's the story behind that? And then I'd watch a YouTube lore video. And I'd be like, oh. And then I'd go into the Wikipedia
God, no,
and then lose
cool.
hours
Have
of
you read
my
the
life.
Silmarillion?
Yeah.
You've read the Silmarillion.
What?
Wiki
right?
how?
Yes.
But yeah,
I read the Silmarillion before I read The Lord of the Rings.
I think one of the big things about like just the movies versus the books is like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the books. I think they're really good. Like they have like a really
I love the
awesome
world.
story,
Like
and
the
world
world's
itself.
my
Yeah, the world is
favorite
great.
bit.
But just in general, like, I mean, it also comes from the fact that like I do really much more enjoy like a visual experience than reading stuff, because I think that books in themselves have elements in them that are literally impossible to capture on film. But like just having that visual experience and seeing things come to life is a lot more, like, it affects me a lot more. And so that's what I really appreciate about like the movies themselves. Like my last point that I'll make about the series itself before we go into The Fellowship is the fact that I think in general they changed a lot of things from the book, but it was in order to create a story that made sense. And what I think is really like important to note is that I had never read the books before I saw the movies. I actually didn't read the books until I think I was 17 the first time I read the books, which was like 15 years after, not 15, it was like 12 years after like the movies came out. But like I was only like, I had been watching the movies like year after year. I was a massive fan. I was super into them before I even picked up the book.
Same. And then were you the same where you're like dipping into the Wikipedias and learning as much as you can?
100%.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
whereas,
exactly what I did.
Versus things like Harry Potter, where like you can be a fan of just the movies. That's fair, because like in some ways they're good movies, or like they tell a fun story and all that. But like a lot of it is like, I think the problem with like the production of Harry Potter is like they were making the movies for the book fans. They weren't making it for the general public. You know, and so like a lot of the plot lines and small stories of Harry Potter are like really confusing in the movies, because they're relying on the fact that most people have probably read the books and will know the backstory. Whereas in Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson created a film series that stands alone. Like I honestly, there for a few years there, because it came out when I was really, really young, and I saw all the movies. For a few years, I had no idea it was a book series. I thought it was like just a movie that Peter Jackson created. And like and when I found out that it was a book series, I was just like, oh cool, there's like more to it and stuff. And that's when I ended up like, you know, like considering reading the books and all that. But like it stands by itself. Like you never need to read the books, and you can still get the full feeling of like Middle Earth and like the lore and like all of the rich like history in the world itself.
I always knew there was books. In a very weird way, I was born into Lord of the Rings, because my mom used to read it to me while I was in the womb. No,
Shire.
literally, yeah. Because my mom read Lord of the Rings while she was pregnant on me.
Oh, love.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
See,
so cute.
I've very cool parents, so I've ended up a massive nerd, because my mom loves Lord of the Rings and my dad loves Star Wars. So like.
Okay, so before we get into The Fellowship of the Ring and talking about that movie just by itself, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back.
I can't love you, miss you. Bye-bye.
And we're back to discuss movie number one.
Movie number one. Uno. Dos.
Okay.
Uno.
So I'll just hop right into my fun facts. Like I said, I have quite a lot of fun facts.
We didn't say what the first one is.
Yeah, so we're gonna talk about the first movie. The first one is called
The Fellowship of the Ring.
Okay.
So anyway, okay, so the fun facts. So, like I said earlier, the original cut of this movie was 4 hours and 30 minutes. And they had to break it down to the theatrical version. And then the extended edition of this one, I believe, is like 2 hours, 58 minutes, something like that. So that's the extended version. I think the theatrical version is something like 169 minutes or something. Apparently, like, Liv Tyler was like afraid to drive in New Zealand because she couldn't drive on the left side of the road, and so she made Orlando Bloom drive her around everywhere.
We've talked about this before, but how did Steve Tyler produce Liv Tyler?
Oh, I know. So anyway, next fun fact. So Sean Astin's seen underwater at the end of the movie, when he's like chasing after Frodo and then starts drowning.
Oh my God.
Why are you getting to that? Are you trying to make me fucking cry?
So,
Why are you
no,
talking
this is
about
an
that
interesting.
at the start of the
This
thing?
is an
Yeah, I
interesting
got
production
frozen
point.
mid-yawn.
Apparently that wasn't filmed in water. That was
doesn't
filmed
look
in a
underwater,
dry
not gonna lie.
studio.
Yeah.
And
It looks
it
like air
was
pumped up from the
fans
bottom.
like to make his cloak billow around him and all that. It was put in slow motion, and the water effects were added afterward,
Mhm.
which I thought
Because
was
look at
actually
his
interesting.
hair. I caught
Well-
that one. Because look at his hair.
Because I mean, like you can if you're looking for it, I feel like you could probably see it. But like I didn't
I
know
was
that
always
until
looking
someone
for
like
it.
specifically pointed it out. I was like, oh shit!
Oh, because
that's so fascinating.
I was looking at it and I just looked. I was like, he doesn't look wet. Yes.
I don't know. And when you're in the water, you don't look wet because like everything's wet.
Is water.
Anyway.
What the fuck are you talking
It's
about? Water's
water
wet. Let's not go into. I mean, it is.
All right. So my next fun fact for
yeah.
Fellowship of the Ring. So my next fun fact. So the ring wraith's like screech sound. You know, like that horrifying, like that is Fran Walsh, Peter Jackson's wife. That is her scream. That's like obviously like digitally modified and stuff.
No,
but
not digitally
she,
at all.
She like literally like they had her come in. I can't remember what the conversation was that they had, but they were like trying to come up with like the screechy sound, and like Peter Jackson was just like, oh,
They
Fran
came
can
in.
scream like that. I
I
think
love the way they were in a room saying, we need something absolutely blood curdling. Like, it needs to be the most horrifying scream you've ever heard. And Peter Jackson went, Fran, hold on. Here, I'll get my wife in. Wait till you fucking
And
hear this, lads.
In the bonus features, though, they give you like the unaltered like audio that they used, and it's like this blood curdling scream from like Fran just going in the audio booth and like just screaming. It's
That's
awesome.
scary.
I love that. That's what it is. But anyway, okay. So the next fun fact. Oh, this one's really sweet. Okay, so now we're talking about Viggo Mortensen and how this like man is just like,
Viggo
you know, there are no words. But anyway,
Mortensen.
so
There is just
yeah,
two
like
words,
I talked
and
about
it's Viggo Mortensen.
I talked about how like he really bonded a lot with his horse.
Brago.
Well, so he ended up buying the horse who plays Brago.
Aww.
Edit.
He also ended up
No.
there like the writing double, Liv Tyler's writing double. She wanted to buy her horse, but she couldn't afford it, and so Viggo Mortensen bought it and gave it to her as a gift.
Free horses for everyone.
Free horse. Why
He's
did
a
you
socialist.
Me
It's
one?
just so sweet.
Where's my horse?
Also, he's an absolute badass. Used to obviously watch them, yeah?
Yeah.
So you know the scene near the end when Lurtz, who's the like Uruk-hai chieftain, is fighting Aragorn, yeah?
Yeah.
And there's the part where he pulls Aragorn's dagger out of his leg, licks it, and then throws it at Aragorn, yeah?
Yeah.
And Aragorn bats it away with the sword.
that
Knife
wasn't
was
supposed
supposed
to
to go
happen.
in the tree beside Aragorn. It was not supposed to go anywhere near him. But Viggo Mortensen, in character, bam, bats away the knife,
and then
that's
runs
the take
at
they
him with
use.
the sword.
Yeah.
Oh.
Was that
Like,
real?
it-
Was that
full-
real?
Yeah,
One?
full in character. The
No, but
knife
was
was
that a
not
real
meant
knife?
to. Yes.
Yeah.
It was not meant to go near him.
It was the prop
Yeah.
knife that was like the real one, like not the
Like, it was an actual
stabby
metal
people
knife.
Yeah.
We could have
That's
had a
scary.
crow too. Thing.
Crow too.
Crow.
Brandon Lee. Oh.
Okay, so next fun fact. This is the
Why'd you make me
first
upset?
film. This was the very first film to be. It was the first recipient
Ever.
of the American Film
It's the first
Institute's
movie
Movie of the Year award.
Movie.
So,
war.
The American Film Institute had never awarded like a movie of the year, and this
Oh.
was the first one that they did that for.
That's interesting.
Oh, I like this one because this is my last fun fact for this one, and then we'll get into the discussion. But I think this one's like really sweet. So apparently, Peter Jackson and Barry Osborne, and Barry Osborne is one of the producers. They actively campaigned for Andy Serkis, who plays Gollum, to receive an
To be
Oscar
on-
nomination.
Oh.
Yeah, to receive
my
an Oscar
God,
nomination
yay.
for a Best Supporting Actor role. But the problem is that the rules with the Academy is that they can't award a nomination to someone who's not
on
physically
screen.
seen on screen. And so because
Oh.
he himself was not seen on screen because Gollum was a CGI character, he wasn't he
That's such a
couldn't
shame.
have-
And his
couldn't accept the
performance
nomination.
So
is
good.
amazing. Also,
No,
he
can I
should have
say-
been nominated because he is on screen. He
Can I
is
tell you
on.
some-
Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I know he was in Return of the King.
Oh yes,
But-
true.
I went through a phase of like Gollum / Smeagol was my favorite thing in the world, and that's when
So
the
you
Hobbit
said you
was
had
coming.
nightmares about him.
Yeah, but then I had character growth, and then I started to like him. So,
You don't like Gollum, you like Smeagol.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But I was watching The Hobbit. I was like, oh, I can't believe he's in this. And then I figured out the next two movies he wasn't going to be in it. So I was like, I'm not watching them. I just never did.
Alright.
I was 12.
Hey, probably for the best, to be honest.
Okay. Well, so those are all of my fun facts. So we'll go ahead and get into the discussion, the story discussion for Fellowship. So who wants to go first?
Oh, is this? I think this might be story. Again, if it's not, you can just correct me.
If it's not story, we could just hard shut you down. Just
Kick you out of the meeting.
turn off my screen.
yeah.
I just love the Hobbits in general.
Right.
They're
But
my
I-
favorite part.
They're my favorite part. Why do I feel like the two annoying ones that keep getting in trouble?
Mary and Pippin, yeah.
You and
Why
and
is that
Jess.
me and Jess?
Sorry, Mary and Pippin. Sorry,
Oh my
Mary and
god, absolutely, you guys are Mary and Pippin.
Like I wish we were Frodo and
fucking
Sam,
around
but
in the
we're
background.
not.
No, we're really Mary and Pippin.
Pippin. Yeah.
Oh my
No,
god,
you
it's
don't
another
wish you were
duo.
Frodo
You guys need to add that to the
Another
duos that
duo.
you guys are.
Oh, Bill and Ted. Mary and
Because we're not
Pippin.
the.
Pain and Panic.
Wait,
I love
but which
that. That's so
one?
true.
Which one's Pippin? Which one?
Me.
Yeah.
I'm obviously Pippin and I know it, guys.
I think both of you share aspects of
Yeah, I
each
was
of them.
gonna say, I don't know that either of you are inherently
love
Pippin
child.
or inherently Mary.
And then we kiss.
But anyway, okay.
I think together you are Pippin and Mary, but neither
No,
of
I
you
agree
are
though.
Pippin
The
or
hobbits
Mary.
are
You know what
it's
I mean?
a really like nice part of the world because they're like
They're
so
party.
nice.
I'm sorry, their
party.
little party really
Well,
got me. But
That
the
looked like
one
a dope ass party
Bilbo's
too. Like, everyone was having a
111th
good
birthday.
ass time.
Bilbo,
I'd
I
so
have
be there.
11th birthday.
And the class thing about hobbits, when they have birthdays, they give presents to everybody else. So everybody at that birthday party got a sick ass present.
That's so
It's really
nice.
cute, isn't it?
We should bring that like,
Yeah.
into real life.
So like often like hobbits' houses are just cluttered with shit because every other day it's somebody's birthday, so you
Oh,
get
get a
like a
gift.
little
I'm
present.
sorry.
Yeah,
That's the way to. And then they have second breakfast.
Yeah.
They have third.
Yeah.
Oh, I
so
love
smart.
hobbits, man.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, we do not stop till nightfall.
What about breakfast?
We've already had it.
We've had
Had
one, yes.
one, yes.
What about second
What about
breakfast?
second breakfast?
It's the face he makes after that too.
What about second
He knows
breakfast?
about second breakfast, Pip. What about elevensies? Luncheon, afternoon tea, dinner, supper. He knows about them, doesn't he?
I wouldn't count on it.
And then he gets hit in the head with an apple.
I seen a video explaining how Aragorn is the best male character in any movie because he doesn't have any of the toxic
it's
masculine
toxic
traits.
I watched the video about that too.
Yeah, you watched
it's
it. It's probably the
King.
same video.
probably.
King, respectful
Yes,
king.
No,
and
but
one
I
of the
agree
clips
with you,
was like he provides, and then it's him fucking the
Throwing
apple at
it.
Pippin.
But yeah, no, I agree with you, Sinead. The hobbits are really like I feel like you, especially because I mean they're very central to the story because one of the only reasons that Frodo is able to like be the ring bearer is because he like is so like pure of heart and well like just good hearted that he's able to like resist it enough. Which is
That's
always
so
like there's always the thing that like is if Frodo was not able to do it, Sam was probably the only one who could like
And you know who would fully agree with you, Sinead, about loving the hobbits?
Who?
J.R.R. Tolkien. Because
No,
you
I have the
can
same
tell.
personality to INFP. He had it too.
Why do we all, honest to God, look like we're in the little different groups in the Lord of the Rings?
I mean, who am I in Lord of the Rings, though?
So wait, who
You're
are
the
we
one-
each in the Lord of the Rings then? No one has blue hair in the Lord of the Rings though.
No, but you're definitely like...
An elf.
Well, you could be one of the
Yeah.
ghosts.
Who
Yeah.
am I, though?
You're just
Oh,
a
one of the
person.
Wait,
I'm just a fucking dude.
I don't want to call you a dwarf. He's a
An orc.
dwarf.
I'm Aragorn. I'm clearly Aragorn.
Yeah.
oh my god. Okay, so anyway,
We're
well,
hobbits.
so I think let's start with the exposition scene first. Of all.
I love it.
I think it's so good because
Really beautiful.
And you know how I said like I've said earlier like I'm not a huge fan of exposition, but I think they do it really they do a damn good job in this one. But mainly also so actually story about like how that came to be as well. They originally had like this whole like basically like I don't know, it was like 20 minutes or something. It was like really long of like this whole like telling the history of Middle Earth.
See,
And
I feel
they
like
ended
that's
up
the
being
exact.
like it's too much.
Yeah,
And,
I feel
yeah.
like that's the exact problem we're gonna run into in this podcast. Is literally how much lore there is in the world that we're like, oh,
yeah,
we're
by the
the
way.
well, I
But,
guess. Okay. I also have to explain. So the person who forged the rings. No, but yeah.
That's why I only talk about the films. But anyway, so but yeah, apparently they took it out because they were like, no, it's too much, and they took out the entire thing. But then New Line required them to have at least a 2-minute exposition, and they came out with a 7-minute exposition. But it's spectacular. I've definitely memorized the whole thing.
Kate
Love
Blanchett.
it. Couldn't
No, you
say
didn't
it.
memorize it.
Oh.
Not exactly. Remember, we had to look up 2 words when we were trying to fill out the thing.
That's
Two
right.
words. It's
Yeah, I
fine.
actually forget which words they were. But
Well, it's kinda
there
like-
was this
I know
thing
the,
where
I know the Elvish that
it
she
was a
says in the
quote
beginning,
unquote
too.
quiz.
Oh yeah.
But it
No,
was
a
literally
Sporkle thing.
write out word for word the opening. Like
It was a Sporkle
fucking
thing, and we
law
got it
thing,
really
yeah.
close to getting it correct. But I know, I
Listen,
know
2
the Elvish
words.
that she says at the beginning too. But it's a. I was gonna cut it out and like have it as a soundbite, but I'm not gonna listen to a 7-minute exposition.
yeah.
Oh my god, I would
But-
kill you.
Our sound bites are like too long as is,
I
to
know.
be honest.
So anyway,
I'd leave.
I just
They're
like, but yeah, that
borderline
exposition is
copyright
just
infringing.
So good.
That's a
I don't know,
supernatural
can
character.
Can I have a hot take?
What's up?
Why
Is
do
it?
I not trust her? I don't trust her at all.
I always
Is
thought
it
she was
because-
evil for
Because
some
she's
reason.
Yeah.
old and knowledgeable, and old knowledgeable people are never.
She's also a
trustworthy.
MILF.
It's because it's look, Sinead, it's okay if you're intimidated by powerful women. Like I understand. Like I
Isn't
get,
Galadriel supposedly
I
like
get
an,
it.
is one of Galadriel is one of Arwen's ancestors?
she's one of the oldest
like
beings
Arwen.
in
No,
Middle
yeah.
Earth.
I liked
She's
Arwen.
ancient.
Arwen's
But
really
anyway.
nice.
I like him
like
too.
That's
Arwen-
a
Liv
woman.
Tyler.
Liv Tyler.
Okay,
Arwen
we're
is
getting,
also
we're getting a little chaotic. Right now.
Aragorn's auntie.
So I want to talk about my favorite part of the first movie, I'd say, is definitely like everything having to do with Moria and like the mines and all that.
100%.
Because first of all, like
That
the Moria
happens in the
scene, just
first one?
overall, the whole thing,
Yeah.
the whole thing, it is everything. Like the Moria scene is everything, because like there's the music in that one, because that one's the only time that you get the dwarf like chanting like music. But that's like the only, like that is the only part that's just very super significantly different, because they never have it ever again in the rest of the movies. But I think it is gorgeous.
It's also terrifying. I'm sorry, that whole scene I felt terrified, especially as a child. Terrifying.
That is like one of the things that like birthed my love for like the world and the lore, is that all of a sudden there's a Balrog.
Yeah.
And it's not explained what it is. Gandalf goes,
It's just
it's a demon of the ancient world. Get the fuck
Yeah,
out of here
like, run.
now. And I was like, what is it? And I was like, oh, that's what it is. So I'm
No,
like
it's-
Googling
Well, and
frantically,
also, so one thing
what's
that I really
a
love
Balrog?
is like
You
in
know?
the book, there's like one line that describes their like them running like through like the stairs and through Moria to get away from the Balrog, and that like it's one of the most iconic scenes is when they're like jumping on the stairs and all that, and it's so well done. It's so like there's so much tension, and like you're like on the edge of your
Yeah.
seat the entire time, and it's
What really
it's so good. I
Yeah,
love it.
what really hits with that is the drums. The drums hit so well with that,
Mm-hmm.
especially the way they can ramp them up like faster and faster when
Yeah.
it's closer, and it's like, oh,
It's really good. And like the troll, like fighting the troll and everything, and that like because that was also like the first time that you really see everyone's skill in battle as well, and like the bravery of the hobbits not having any skill and still being like determined to like defend themselves.
can we
So
talk
shitty.
about Sam, the skillet master? Absolute skillet
Yeah,
warrior.
I know. Like
Skillet
definitely,
warrior.
like
Skillet
Rapunzel
warrior.
got her skills from watching Lord
Yeah.
of the Rings.
The Pan Paladin, like fucking walking around whacking. And I love the bit where he goes, I think I'm getting the hang of this.
Yeah.
And just bonk.
Oh.
No, I think it really does
Yeah.
show like all of the characters like like skill in battle and also their bravery and like all of that, and they're like also camaraderie as well, like you know kind of fighting with each other and like protecting
Yeah.
each other, and like you know all of the everyone kind of defending the hobbits and stuff, making sure that they're
That's
all
so
good, and
cute.
it's really,
And then-
it's really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, they defend the hobbits, but also after Frodo gets stabbed by the like big spear, fucking Pippin and Merry are like, fuck this troll.
Yeah.
I'm like, yes,
It's
the
so
boys.
good.
Well, I just felt like this, for the story wise, it was really like it had a nice flow, but like explained everything. So when you went into the second movie, I felt like it was less I can't pronounce the word.
Exposition. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but like this one didn't feel like it was really like, I don't know. I didn't feel just like.
Yeah, I think they did really well at
face.
kind of like subtly like hinting at things that would like make you understand rather than like shoving it in your face.
It's because like they're on like a journey, so it's like everything is fast paced in a way because they're like, we have to get here fast.
Mm-hmm.
I think
yeah.
I think just because I got ahead of myself, one of the things that I really enjoy, and like it happens just before this sequence, is the Watcher in the water.
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
Right before they go into Moria, when they get hit, like they get attacked by that like squid looking guy.
Yeah, and the creature design is really, really cool for it. It's not fully explained what it is in the books because you don't see its face. It's just I think it's 20 arms is what they say. Just come out of the water, and they've got like and they've got like a pale green kind of glow to them, and they just like come out and just instantly go for Frodo.
Why Frodo?
Because he has the ring.
Oh.
So the ring draws. It essentially draws evil. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
I loved
always
it.
attracting
When I was
evil.
younger too, when I was like a kid and I was watching that scene all the time, I was just like, poor Frodo. Like he's just like minding his own damn business, never just coming at him.
Why do I feel like that's me in Dublin? Where all the junkies coming near me.
In the original script for a movie, you actually get to see a lot more of that creature. It's what's called or this might be a bit lore heavy. It's called they're called the nameless things. They're called the nameless things. But yeah,
their name are the nameless things.
The nameless things. Gandalf says that they're older than the earth, essentially. And he's like, I won't tell you about them because I don't want to bring any image of them to the light of day. You know what I mean? He's like, that's how freaky they are.
Freaky
and
deaky.
it's believed, it's just a theory, but it's believed that the Watcher in the Water was one of those things. Because
that's
it
just
escaped
like when you're at
from
a
a cavern.
sleepover. That's like when you're at a sleepover and you start telling ghost stories and like one of your friends is like, what's that? And you're like, no, I can't tell you, I won't sleep.
Oh, I was... That was pure Gandalf. That's like
Gandalf.
You won't sleep.
You won't sleep.
Just like Jess in her like
tell
dark
you.
ass like moody room, and she's just like, I can't tell you, you won't
sleep.
Cassie, do that accent again, please.
That one was
No, I didn't hear. I hope the mic picked it up. But go on, try that accent again.
No.
You won't sleep.
Okay,
Let Cass.
so-
Come on, let's hear it.
You won't sleep.
We're moving on. Okay.
Sleep.
So going off of the whole like Moria stuff, like I think like the Gandalf's death scene, like that whole sequence, because like the way that like
The first
when
movie, he's gonna die.
Well, yeah, and like the way he like when he's dropping off of the bridge and like there's zero score. Oh shit. There's like zero score.
Yeah,
and
you just have to watch him fall.
You like watch Frodo in like slow motion, like realize what just happened, and you hear him like screaming in pain, like yeah. But yeah, so like, and then also like when they're like leaving Moria and it's like the slow motion with the really sad music and like everyone like seeing everyone react. And also I watched a video essay on it and on Lord of the Rings, and one of them at one point they were talking about how like I think the way they portray like Legolas dealing with a lot of the like, because he doesn't necessarily have like a really close bond with anyone other than Gimli and Aragorn.
They're lovers.
He actually does
Earnestly
never
kiss.
say any word, like in the entire
To
script, he
Frodo,
says
yeah.
no words to Frodo, except you can technically count the "and you have my bow," but a lot of people argue that he was telling that to the council.
He doesn't really talk to him in the books either.
Yeah, and so
Why,
like
does he
he
not
doesn't.
like hobbits?
I think it's more.
Yeah, he's fucking
It's because,
racist.
well, to be honest, it's because he's an elf and elves are racist.
Yeah.
But like
I knew I
that's a whole
didn't
other
like
thing.
the elves for a reason.
That's a whole other thing. But no, but it's interesting because like the way that they kind of portray Legolas like dealing with all of this happening and stuff, because he doesn't have very close bonds with most of the people like other than Gimli and Aragorn and somewhat Gandalf, but like because like he's an immortal being dealing with like mortal, like he's like surrounded by mortal people that he cares about, and he's dealing with death and he's not used to it. And I thought that was an interesting point that the video essay made, that like it's interesting to see like that they keep on kind of, they do close-ups of Legolas anytime that there's like like a death scene or something, and it's like it's really good to kind of like it's like it's an immortal being having to deal with death, which isn't something that he would normally have to deal with.
But also, Legolas is one of the most overrated characters in all of.
I think he's
cinema.
a little bit. I think he's a bit fruity.
He's very cool. He's very cool. He's very funny, but he's kind of surface level. And he's
a himbo.
super.
He is a himbo. What's because Orlando Bloom is a himbo.
And the thing is, like, all that stuff with him doing faces in the background. He was like, anytime I didn't know what was going on, this is Orlando Bloom. He was like, I just like do faces. So sometimes in the background of scenes, Legolas is all like.
I just love that, like, well, because when I was a kid, I was like obsessed with Legolas, and now I'm just like Aragorn's where it's at. Like,
I'm gonna absolutely.
Erasure.
I'm gonna call my auntie out a little bit. So my auntie loves Lord of the Rings as well,
Right.
And she saw the movie and was like, oh my god, Legolas, yeah. And then seeing an interview with Orlando Bloom was like, why isn't he blonde with blue eyes? she was so disappointed to figure out that that's not like what he actually looks like.
Finds out he's married to Katy Perry.
But yeah, so also on that scene though, when they're leaving Moria, and it's like that slow-mo, like, you know, like everyone reacting and stuff. There were two other things that like I wanted to point out specifically. Like, it's like when like Pippin's like on the ground being held by Merry and he's like crying and stuff, because like technically it's Pippin's fault.
It's Pippin's fault, yeah.
Yeah, I know. Pippin keeps doing shit like that. He accidentally causes chaos.
Oh, poor Pippin. But anyway,
It's okay.
Apparently, so in the moment when Frodo turns around, when Aragorn calls out to Frodo, and then he turns around, like that, like shot with it on his face. Apparently, Peter Jackson's direction to Elijah Wood was, "I want your pain to be frightening." So.
Yeah, and this is why.
Powerful.
What would you even do?
Okay, for people listening on Spotify, Adam did a great imitation.
Thank you.
Of Elijah Wood.
His fucking faces, dude.
Leave him alone.
They're doing their best. Don't like this slander on my little babies.
Yeah, Elijah Woods. Leave him
Everything
alone.
he does a lot with his lips. Do you ever notice that? He does do a lot with his lips when
Speaking
he's
of
in
Elijah Wood, though, so apparently he like bit his nails a lot. I can't with his nails. His nails would always just. Ew.
I
I would look at them.
I
and
like that's how they
cringe.
should
They're
look. They should
horrible.
look real hobbity, you know.
Well, it's not even just that they were like dirty. That wasn't the issue. It was the fact that they were like barely there. Like, ew. I hated them so much. Every time
So,
he was like, messing with the ring and it was a close up on his fingers, I was like, ugh.
Let's
Did not
talk.
give him
Get a
fake
manicure.
nails. Wait, did not give him
Let's
acrylics.
talk about
Shellacs.
let's talk about body positivity here, okay? I just want you to know, any young people out there who've watched Lord of the Rings, you're not alone in thinking your fingernails are weird after
They're
looking
not
at
super button.
Frodo's fingernails over and over again
Okay.
for years. Because I'd look at my own and be like,
I'm a
Are they-
hobbit.
they're long.
Moving
What should they be
on.
nubs? Should I have nubs?
No.
Anyway.
I'd
true.
actually like to point out there's one scene in the entire series, or like not even scene. It's like it's a shot. There's one thing in the entire series that I was just like, it's not it. That's not it. Like, shouldn't have been there.
Girl, be careful
It's
what
the
you
only
say
thing
right
that
now,
I
'cause
think
we're
is
getting
bad.
defensive over hobbits.
Is when it's the scene where, like, you know, it's after Arwen picks up Frodo after he was stabbed and like brings her brings him to Rivendell.
Here?
And it's that scene where he's like going over to the dark side or whatever. And then Elrond's healing
one?
him, and it's like the weird little like feathered rotoscoping around him, and like Elrond pops up and he's like talking.
Oh yeah, it's
bad.
so odd, and he's like,
so
and for some
bad.
reason he's a little bit shaky, and he's like, Frodo. It's like,
Yeah, and Frodo's just like lying there, like
yeah,
it's not good. It's the only thing of the entire series that I think is bad.
See the way they're making a Lord of the Rings TV show? I think
Yeah.
they should quit it, and I think they should just make it like a keep it up with Kardashian.
Like a
with
reality
hobbits.
TV type thing.
For hobbits.
Oh my god, that would be such a
really
good
like
parody.
it.
That would be such a good parody.
Right? I just want to watch them live their little lives and eat their little food.
Well, his
That's all I
thing-
cared about. I couldn't give a shit about this long walk. All I cared
The
about
long walk.
Well, the problem is, okay,
Eat food.
we don't have to get into it, but that series is going to be shit.
Oh yeah, I got a casting call.
I'm
for that.
so nervous.
They asked
No.
me to play an elf.
It's
series?
already messed
Lord of
up.
the Rings.
They're making a TV?
Yeah, but it's already messed up because they
I remember
they
now.
were asking for a casting call for characters who are okay with nudity.
Oh,
And-
speaking of which,
and they
actually,
wanted to do
no.
I
sex
read
scenes.
I don't
something.
wanna see
Apparently,
naked
there in
hobbits.
the original version of the script, Arwen was supposed to have like a bigger role to play, but there was apparently like a full on like nude scene where her and Aragorn are in like a
No.
magical spring or something.
No.
I read that and I was like, what?
J.J.R.
That's not at all
Tolkien
what
would
Lord
have
of the
not
Rings is
liked
about.
that.
Anyway,
Yeah,
um,
he was too damn Christian.
Oh wait, one like line that I actually thought was like funny because it's totally like that's just how everyone says things when they get like defensive. Is like in the very very beginning when like Frodo jumps onto the cart with Gandalf and he's just like, you know, ever since you came along, like Bilbo's weird, and he's just like, if you're referring to the instance with the dragon,
I was
barely involved. And I
Love
thought
that.
the way he said that, like his performance
did
was
was
just
give your
so
uncle
funny.
a little
Just like if
push
you're
out the door.
referring to that, like Loki
Yeah,
wasn't my fault.
what? The minor dragon incident.
But yeah, I thought
Be
that was
ashamed.
Smell.
And also that's
Greatest
like
terror of our age.
that's in a way
You
that
mean
like
that?
was kind of like in
Smog.
what that was
Smog.
kind of like in what like Sinead was saying about how it's not super expositional and the fact that like there's just little hints to like things that happened in the past. And the fact that that was like they were talking about the events that happened in The Hobbit, or like when they're at the party and the giant dragon like firework comes flying
Yeah.
around, and like Bill was like, you know, oh dragon,
There's
what?
been
There
a
hasn't been
dragon
yeah.
around these parts.
And
But-
so, like-
Ooh, yeah.
They're like referring to like the history, but like in a casual way that people would normally talk about history, and not like, you know, not in a way that's kind of just like hint hint this happened, you know.
Is there a reason why? Okay, look at this scene. If what's
Right.
happening here?
Yes,
When
the
the-
Council of Elrond.
Yeah, that they're all like from different like races.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is
There's-
there
Yeah.
is that
yeah.
supposed to be like a reason why there's one like human, elf, dwarf?
In a-
There's
yeah.
two men, an elf, a dwarf, a wizard, and 4 hobbits.
Is there a reason for that?
There is exactly the reason that you think it is.
Yeah. So they in the council
Like,
the
you'll-
Council of Elrond
you know
they had
the right
invited
answer.
like
Yeah.
representatives from each of the races to have their say about
Free
what would happen.
peoples of Middle-earth.
So they
Okay.
basically when they were forming the group, like in the book, Elrond proposes that there be 9 people, rather than it just ending up being 9 people. And that was
wanna-
basically why like each person was coming up and being like, I will be the person like representing my like race of being to help on this
Gotcha.
quest.
No, I thought it was that. Okay.
That's
Yeah.
like in Drag Race when they all come through the door and they're like, I'm representing Chicago.
Chicago.
I'm from New York.
Literally.
It's I always find one thing I find really interesting about Tolkien's books, and something I like to mirror and like my own stuff that I try and do.
That you're a Christian.
He draws a lot of parallels. So
To Christianity?
no, so no. In his books, he's got Frodo and he has Gollum, and in a way, they're two versions of the same character.
Yeah, one that was
Yeah.
corrupted and one that stays good.
There's the Fellowship of the Ring, who's 9 companions, and then there's the
9
Ring
ring
Wraiths,
wraiths.
the 9
Yeah.
Nazgul. You know what I mean?
Oh,
And they're
yeah,
both
yeah.
like, you know, they both have like a quest that is central to the ring. You know what I mean? Like, I just like that sort of stuff in it. You know what I mean? And then of course there's, you know, the good human races, and there's also the bad human races,
Yeah.
which, you know, are a little bit vaguely insensitive now. But sure, look, the reason that like I like this movie, no, but after watching all of the other ones, is seeing like the Fellowship and like their companions before anything
Yeah.
has happened, especially seeing Frodo and Sam and all that in their normal lives,
Like quiet
just
lives
doing
and
what they're
enjoying
doing
them.
Being
Yeah.
hobbits.
in the
Literally,
Shire.
like, yeah, because if this had never happened, they would have all been perfectly happy
Yeah.
to continue the way they were going, kind of a thing.
This is and this is the proper like this is the thing about Lord of the Rings. This is the reason why I weep through all like 11 hours of it because I'm like, look at them, they're so happy, and then they're not good, you know.
And then they have to go through all of this hardship.
Yeah,
They're
exactly.
They're like, you know, when you see like a small animal,
Mm.
and then the animal gets taken by like a big bird.
Mhm.
Like that's me. Like the hobbits.
Yeah.
Are,
They
like,
do get
rabbits.
taken by big birds at the end,
I know at the end, but they didn't eat them.
But
or did
it was
they?
a good thing.
The last
Okay,
part of the movie is
so-
just a dream sequence. The eagles pick them up and just hump. Yeah.
Anyway, so well, before we talk about the climax, let's talk about like some of the individual characters because I feel like we should talk about Merry and Pippin as a duo. In the first movie, like when they're like fucking with the fireworks and shit.
I love them. They're like Fred and George.
That's what I was gonna say from.
Yeah.
I love
With the
them.
fireworks and everything. I love that they pick the dragon as the
Yeah.
firework that they're gonna fuck shit up with.
But I love that they were just messing around. Was it in a field when
Yeah.
they find Frodo and Sam?
Yeah. Oh my god, I love that scene where they're just like, oh, we did, like he's overreacting. Like we didn't steal anything. Like all of it is like a couple of cabbages, and then they like list it, and they're like, oh yeah, and the mushrooms. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
and then
and
the
the mushrooms
corn.
are so
Oh
fun
yeah,
last
and then
week.
the carrots. And
Oh,
it's like,
yeah.
and he was just like, yes, Pippin, shut
Yes,
up. I'm just
Pippin.
saying he's overreacting.
Yeah, it's clearly over. And Farmer Maggot's like their
Yeah.
proper bro in the books
Yeah.
as well. He's like, hey guys, what's up? And
I
but
That
the
that
interest.
was-
Sorry, go on.
No, you're okay. I was gonna make a joke about Merry and Pippin.
Go ahead.
Do you know what they remind me of? Do you know when you're like, do you know when you go out with your friend and it's real serious and you need to have a real serious talk, and then your two other little fucking arsehole friends come along and they're like, "What are you talking about? What
Yeah,
could you tell me?"
It's like when
Like
they're
what?
having like a moment in the like
Right.
in the
Where are we
corn,
going?
It's like when they have a moment in like the corn and Sam's just like, oh, like I thought I lost you, like, you know, it's just something
Yeah.
that Gandalf said, and then they
Don't
literally
leave
just
him.
come out of nowhere and like just
All
like,
four
Yeah.
of them act like that real weird group in school. Like Frodo is that girl that keeps having panic attacks over her boyfriend, and then Sam's a really good friend. But when Merry and Pippin are the two arsehole friends that can't take anything serious, and they're like, "Why are you crying?"
but they're well intentioned.
Yeah, no, they're like, "Why are you crying? Don't cry. You're so pretty. Don't cry."
Ah, you're so sexy. Don't kill yourself.
Frodo, you're so pretty. Stop crying.
But,
It's fine. It's just a ring. Get up.
I love Merry and Pippin. I think they're so cute.
They're my
and,
favourite.
Isn't it?
My
It's
too.
interesting because
And-
like they don't seem like that good of mates in the book. You know what I mean? Like
No, stop
At
it.
the
Don't
start.
say that.
but they
No,
literally
at the
are
start.
like children friends, yeah.
the other hobbits are really young. Like
Yeah.
at the start of
Okay.
So
the
Frodo's actually supposed to
thing.
be like 50.
yeah, and
when
then
this
the
all
hobbits
happens.
I think are 20. But for a hobbit, like you're 20, you're not an adult until you're 35, I think, which I love. By the way,
Because they
I think
live
we
really
need to
long.
adopt that. They don't live that long.
They live longer than
But-
like humans.
Like so, Bilbo what like it
He was
wasn't
old.
odd
Yeah,
for him to be
yeah.
old, but the thing
It was
about
odd for him to
it
look
was
the way he was.
exactly like he was
He
in
looked
such good
too young.
shape.
Yeah, he should
Yeah.
have been a lot older than that.
I love when they all like when they all hop out and Elrond's like, it
What the
seems
fuck?"
you're inseparable even when he is invited to a secret
And
meeting
you
and
aren't?
you are not. Yeah, and then they're like, yeah, fuck you, we're coming. But
Yeah.
just to
Merry
go on,
Pippin's
yeah,
great.
chronologically something that I absolutely love, like, and something that makes me cry. I mean, everything in this fucking movie makes me cry.
So emotional.
When they straight after like that scene and they're leaving and Frodo's about to walk out and like he's got this massive journey ahead of him and like he's literally
And he's
going
on-
to
and he's
save the
only
world.
little.
Yeah, and then he says Gandalf, it goes Mordor,
Is it left
yeah,
or right?
left or right. Oh, like, and then Gandalf just puts his like hand on his shoulder and
That
it's like,
makes me
it's
really
to the
sad that
left.
you even had to say that.
Like it's just
That what?
yeah.
Yeah.
I feel
Because
sad.
he's the
But it
leader of the
shows-
group really, but
Yeah, it shows like how unprepared he is, but like
how
so
willing
he's so
he is,
well
how brave he
intentioned.
is to,
You know what I
in order
mean?
To do it, yeah.
Like he knows how dangerous this is, and he knows he's woefully unprepared, but he's fully
I think they
ready.
did so well
He's
at
like, yeah.
at really getting that to come across
Yeah.
in the movies because you don't get
Oh.
like Frodo's inner monologue like you do in the books, and in
Yeah.
the movies you
Yeah.
need to see that Frodo is not built for
No.
this.
And
No,
I
he's
love
not.
that.
Why
yeah.
did they? Poor Frodo. Sorry, the whole thing. I just feel so sorry for him, and everyone's like,
Mm.
he's not handling this very well, is he? It's like, no.
It's really
What
tough on
happened?
him. Yeah, and
I don't give him like a little nap. Like I want to give him like a
Hercules
yogurt, like a blanket.
born with like a unit. He's not a unit. You know?
Like I just want to give him like a pair of slippers.
He's no
like
Samwise
a yogurt and, like,
Gamgee, alright?
No, he's a beast. He's built different.
Yeah, Samwise is simply built different. He's like, I'm heading to Mordor. Better bring me fucking chicken salt, pal. Like, yeah, alright. So, Weathertop, I fucking love.
What was that again?
So
that's when they're up on the like the little watchtower and like the ring wraiths come and like attack them and like Aragorn comes swinging in out of nowhere and saves the day.
I'm not actually sure if it's called Weathertop in the movie or not.
The watchtower of Amansul is what it's called, but the general thing is a Weathertop.
Weathertop, yeah. It used to be watchtower for the Dunedain.
Mm-hmm.
So it's cool. But anyway.
Yeah, no, I thought that it was a really well done scene, like, and how chaotic it was and how scared they made, like, I love the I mean, this is more of, like, a production thing with, like, the cinematography and all that, but, like, the way that they moved the cameras, like, circling around the hobbits when they're, like, standing there, like, huddled together with their swords out and stuff. I love that because it really does, like, they're literally, like, they're fucked. And it shows a really good idea of, it really does a good representation of like how scared and like how helpless they seem.
And one of my favorite shots from that, like, and it's so fucking intimidating. Like, I've never been like the Nazgul are extremely intimidating, but they're not like
not
that's
as much
when they
as
are
Aragorn
the most
turning around.
Yeah, but they are the most intimidating. Like when they are during Weathertop, they are at their most intimidating. During this particular shot, when it's all the like arches and they walk in through the arches with their swords held high, and you're like, oh man, I get shivers looking at them. Like, fuck,
no, it's really
know,
good.
Like,
and then fucking
so
Aragorn comes in,
much
saves
taller
the day,
than
his
all
little
the
sexy ass just jumping in, starting swinging fire all over it. So good.
I'm just gonna fling a flame torch into your
Apparently
face.
that was Aragorn. Apparently that was Viggo
Viggo.
Mortensen's first scene before he had any swordsmanship training.
Really, and he's just class and that. But yeah, and then of course that's when Frodo gets stabbed by a Morgul blade. You know, that's the first point of no return for Frodo.
Mm-hmm.
He is irreversibly changed by that. Like that. I think it's said in Rivendell after, like, that wound will never heal.
Yeah.
Like,
it'll never fully heal, and it's what happens at the very, very end when he's like, you know, he's writing his book and he's just like, it's never fully healed.
Yeah.
Like,
it's on the I think he's
because it was like a cursed blade that he was stabbed with. It's like a whole thing. We won't get into it, but
he actually,
like,
if he wasn't cured, he would have turned into a wraith.
Oh, that's that part. Oh, yeah, I remember that part. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and then I love how when he puts on the ring, he essentially enters the wraith world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And you see all of the Nazgul as they are as the kings, but their faces are all like worn away and stuff like that.
I thought that was pretty cool.
That was really well done.
I love the idea of like, I don't know, I mean, of course it was intentional. Shut up, Adam. But because, like, in the ring's warped sense of you, like, they're good. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And the ring wants you to want to give the ring to the Nazgul. Do you know what I mean?
So they're like white and
they're white. They're like
like
angelic almost.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, and then even the way, like, he reaches out slowly for the ring, like as if, you know, just give me the ring, and then he like pulls back all like this, and then stab. Yeah. It's like, that's a really cool decision to have them all in white.
One thing that really I also love is that, like, after he's stabbed and they're like, you know, running through like the forest and stuff, they stop by the trolls, and like that does happen in the book. But it's also like, I love that they didn't need to add the trolls in there, but they added in once again as like I was saying with Sinead, like, it's a subtle nod to like the stuff that happened in the past.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Trolls.
And then Arwen's like introduction is fantastic as well. So anyway, so let's talk a little bit about Lothlorien before we get into the climax. Let's talk a little bit about Lothlorien, because I feel like we talked about everything else except for Lothlorien.
Again, what is that?
That's
is where
they go to
lives.
after Moria. You know, the elves' place after Moria.
It's where Galadriel lives. Yeah, and
they sing the lament for Gandalf.
Pretty. So actually, I did read. This is more of a bit of a production point, but the fact they basically filmed all of like the scenes with Galadriel, especially with the mirror, like with the little They filmed that at 36 frames per second, so they could slow it down just a little bit to give her this ethereal, like
she walks.
light, heavenly look.
Very elegant as well.
So by the way,
like
because of that, all the dialogue in that scene be done by ADR because they had
Dubbed
to
over,
do real time dialogue in a slow mo shot.
Whoa,
But anyway, no, I think
like that.
Lothlorien was I loved the feel of it because like I was saying earlier, like they did really well at like making each element of the worlds feel distinctly different because each one had its own history and culture.
I like that. I can tell like they weren't from the same place. Like
exactly.
Each elf village was different. I saw 2 of them, very different.
So I like one of the things I like about that is when they're in the forest and Gimli's like, you know, oh, be careful, lads. You know, there's an evil witch in these forests.
I have the eyes of a eyes of a hawk and the ears of a fox.
And then arrow in his face. The dwarf
and then
is so loud we could have shot him in the dark. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was good.
Oh, Haldir. You came and you died on the turrets.
Stop.
On the barracks.
So anyway, okay, so let's talk about the climax. So there's a lot to talk about with this climax because there's like the fight with Aragorn and Lurtz. There's Boromir's death scene. There's Frodo being like the hero.
Don't talk about it.
The catalyst moment in the hero's journey where he accepts his fate and his path. Then also like Sam refusing to let Frodo go by himself and like all of this and like the Merry and Pippin like sacrificing themselves to help Frodo get away. There's so much in the climax that was just so well done because they're so if we're talking about chronologically in the books, they really like move things around between they move things around in book 1, 2, and 3. Like basically book 2 actually ends after Shelob's Lair, which is like a big part of book 3 or movie 3. And so what I think was interesting is that this really wasn't like a big climactic scene in the books. There wasn't like this huge battle between them and the Orcai. Like it was like a moment, but it wasn't. Well,
they were
thing.
Hunted by like Orcai scouts,
but they weren't like it wasn't this huge like battle scene. Like you really don't get like an emotional Boromir's death. You Boromir dies, but like you don't get the scene that we get in the movies. I can't even like express to you how much that affects me every time I watch Boromir's death scene because like what the problem is I think what like everyone kind of like shits all over Boromir because he's corrupted very easily. If you shit on
Boromir, you're an idiot.
But like it's because he's very easily corrupted by the ring, and the problem is because he's taken on so much responsibility as like the older son of the steward of Gondor, and like he's just like he has to do everything. He has to bring glory back to Gondor and all that, and he's just takes so it's not his fault that he just is easily corrupted.
He's got a lot of ambition.
And he has a lot of
his point
passion
of view,
for his
ring
people.
Could give him everything he's ever wanted.
Exactly, and that he could bring his people, which he loves so much. He loves his people, and it could bring them back to their former glory, which they hadn't been for so long. And like I feel like, and it's always like people always shit on him because he's always like trying to take the ring, and he's always all that kind of stuff.
Well,
it's very kind of iffy when you like watch all of his scenes and stuff.
A moment where like just talking about Boromir. There is a moment that people cite as if like, look, he's an arsehole. But I think it proves the exact opposite, which is when Frodo drops the ring on the Carandras Mountains. Yeah, I think that's what they're called. And then Boromir picks it up and he's looking at it. Any man would have taken that ring. Like most men would have just fucking like bolted with it.
And fucked off, yeah.
Yeah. Like, and like I know Boromir only manages to drop it. That's huge. That's huge. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I know he kind of eventually gives into it for like a moment, but he realizes immediately after, and then immediately redeems himself.
But like,
by saving Pippin and Merry.
But wasn't like the ring like if anybody even like is near it, let alone touches it, could corrupt them.
Exactly.
So what you're saying, like him able to pick it up and then like dropping it.
I think that
huge.
And I think the big thing is that people kind of like criticize Boromir's character because of the fact that the rest of the Fellowship was equally close to the ring, but it was because the ring was preying on Boromir's like insecurities but even Aragorn. It's because he was preying on Boromir's like insecurities and his like challenges and all that. Like it was preying on the hardships that Boromir had that none of the others had. Yeah. And I think what's great is that I love that because he dies in the book, but you don't get this very emotional like redeeming scene. Because like in the books they're a little bit kinder to Boromir like in general, but like just in general in the movie I think it was so important. It was such a great decision from like the script adapters to make this scene what it was, and like the emotional, like the fact that he keeps going after getting shot because he's like, if I stop, these young the helpless hobbits are gonna be like either killed or taken, and so I can't until I can't go anymore. I can't stop until I can't go anymore. And it's such a like it's a really powerful scene.
Like the hobbits
and I love that was added
Merry
in.
and Pippin.
The only moment that Boromir gives up is when Aragorn arrives and he's like, fuck, I can rest. You know what I mean? And that's when he like hits the deck.
And also in the same video essay that I think I was watching something else, but like it's when like after Aragorn like finally finishes off Lurtz and then comes running back to Boromir, the first thing Boromir says is they took the little ones. Like it's not, and he's literally, that's all he worried about. Like that's all he was worrying about. And then he was like, when the respect that they had, and the connection, the bond that they had built over like the time that Aragorn's like crying and Boromir is like literally like telling him, you're my, like I accept you as my king, where it is in the beginning, especially like having all the backstory of how his father
Gondor needs no king.
That whole thing, like the respect that they gained for each other was just like so incredible, especially considering like in the scene that you were talking about when he picks up the ring and Aragorn is literally like holding his sword, literally about to like be like ready, I'm about to like shank this fucking bitch if he's running off with the ring. And
you're
like
about to fucking die.
But it was like, and I love that the Fellowship of the Ring as its own movie really does, I mean it focuses on Frodo and the ring, but it really does do a really good job at like really
it's essentially character study.
No,
I'm only messing. But yeah, and then just to talk about Merry and Pippin, and that's I think we start with Frodo essentially saying his goodbyes, because when Frodo realizes I have to go on my own from here on out,
because the ring is too dangerous to be around.
And he
tells
Aragorn, and then he goes like, will you take it, and actually gives it to him, and Aragorn just closes his hand, and Aragorn knows he's leaving. He's like, I would have followed you into the fires of Mordor, and it's like, Aragorn. And then when he's leaving and he's running away, and then Merry and Pippin see him at the tree and they're like, oh Frodo, come on, and he's like this is a good hiding place, come with us. And he's like, I can't. And they know he's leaving. I think Merry says it, isn't it? He goes, he's leaving. And then they're like, two hobbits who will instantly be murdered by these Uruk-hai. Like,
jump out to distract the Uruk-hai so that Frodo can get away.
Yeah.
It's so
and like
sad.
maybe they won't be killed by the first couple, but there's a lot of them. Like there's a lot of Uruk-hai, and they're like,
even then, if they're not killed, they're gonna suffer, and they do suffer. Yeah.
And orcs are fucking evil. Not always,
Ew,
but
smelly
but yeah,
orcs.
I think like, and then of course we have to talk about like Sam and Frodo.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, well,
at that scene, I love it so much. Like, and it's another thing. Like, I think one of the really important elements of Lord of the Rings in general is will. Will is like one of the most important themes in it. The only power the ring has over people is its will. Do you know what I mean? The only power you have over the ring is if you have enough will to resist it. And Frodo and Sam's character don't have the strength, they don't have the skill, they don't have the ability, but they have the will.
Yeah,
exactly.
And they care enough for each other
in a team project. I don't have the smarts, I don't have the will, but
I
have the will. And it's
will. Yeah,
love it. No, yeah, and I really love that they had the scene. Like they wrote the scene the way that they did, where like literally
Frodo
like Sam is like
I'm going alone. He's
and
like,
Sam's
of course
just
you
like,
are.
yeah, fuck
and
you, I'm also coming.
Yeah.
It's a really
I love
like,
when he calls him Mr. Frodo all the time.
Yeah. That's because
really
like I was saying in the books, like Sam's younger and he's Frodo's gardener essentially.
And I just like the love that they have for each other too, because like, and what's interesting is when I read, like when you read the books, like like Frodo does kind of treat Sam as his servant, not in a bad way, but like, you know, he is subordinate
Should
to
Mr. Frodo
Frodo.
be cancelled?
But in
He's
the movie,
back.
I think it was a solid decision to make it out that they were kind of similar age and similar like minds and were friends and cared for each other, which they do in the books. But I loved the way that they built that in the movies. I think they did really, really well with that.
It's look, it's fucking amazing. This is why I love these movies, you know what I mean? It's for the hobbits, like it's all the cool things and other stuff, but for the hobbits, and like I feel like this essentially the central message is like you can do it, you know what I mean? It's a really positive, it's a very optimistic story at the end of the day, you know what I mean? It is about will, and it is about like, yes, it's really, really fucking tough sometimes, but you're gonna get through it, and you can get through it. Especially like what Gandalf says in Moria when
I have that as a soundbite. Would everyone like to listen?
Yeah.
It's a pity Bilbo didn't kill him when he had the chance.
Pity.
Oh, that's a good.
It was
line
pity
too.
that stayed Bilbo's heart.
That bit.
Many that live deserve death, and some that die deserve life. Can you give it to them, Frodo? Do not be too eager to deal out death and judgment. Even the very wise cannot see all ends. My heart tells me that Gollum has some part to play yet, for good or ill, before this is over. The pity of Bilbo may rule the fate of men.
This part of the score.
I wish the ring had never come to me. I wish none of this had happened.
So do all who live to see such times, but that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us.
That I think that essentially is a really important thing to remember right now, like for everyone. Because this is this is unprecedented times, you know what I mean? I don't think anybody fully, like apart from immunologists who are like, we're on the verge of extinction, but like I think everybody else was like, wasn't expecting a pandemic to happen, you know? And I think like just that message of like, you know, like it's not for us to decide whether it happens to us or to somebody else at this time
what
or
we have
another.
to decide is how to deal, like how to react to what
we
what we
exactly. And I think like that's an important message for my own mental health, but for everyone, is to realize that some things are out of your control, but your reaction to them isn't. You know.
Yeah.
So I think.
All right. Well, so
now I'm gonna tell me. Well, wait, was it Mary or Pippin?
What you want to know?
The cute last name. One of them had a great last name and I didn't know it.
Meriadoc, it's Peregrine Took and Meriadoc Brandybuck.
That's amazing. I love this. They have the best names. They have the best character.
Oh, they do. Meriadoc Brandybuck is a dope name.
What's the name of the fella who runs the Prancing Pony? Bill Butterbur. That's a good one I like as well. What's the name of his? What's the name of his? He has a.
And then Bill the Pony.
Bill the Pony, but Cass.
Bill the motherfucking pony.
You'll like this one, Jess.
Is it talking about all the horses?
Yeah. So Tom Bombadil's pony has a really cute name. Tom Bombadil's pony is notoriously a little chubby unit. Do you know what his name is, Cassie?
No, I don't remember.
His name's Fatty Lumpkin.
That's right.
And he's like such a wise horse, and he like teaches the other ponies
and makes sure that Bill gets back to Bree and all
that. That's one of my favorite things about. All right, can we talk about this? All right, I want to talk about this.
Yeah.
So this is one of my favorite things about J.R.R. Tolkien. Yeah, maybe in other books when it's like, oh, the pony is gone. I won't go into it too much, but the ponies are gone at a different point in the book, right? Yeah. And it's not just the ponies are lost or dead. Oh no, and then they move on.
Like, so Bill, like 3 years
J.R.
later, made it
Tolkien's
back
like,
to Bree,
yeah,
and this is
let me
what he
just,
did for the rest
yeah.
of his life.
He just puts a little note in to all the people who have anxiety about what happened to the ponies. He's like, Fatty Lumpkin found them, rounded them all up, and brought them back to Bree, and they all lived happily ever after. And it's like,
I'd actually
yes.
kill myself if the ponies were found.
I know, that's the thing. In the books, it's implied that the Nazgul got them, or at least set them free.
No, they didn't.
Yeah,
Fatty Lumpkin
they didn't,
has them.
because
Fatty
Fatty
Lumpkin's
Lumpkin
his
got
fault.
their back, man. I love
Oh,
Fatty
I love
Lumpkin.
it.
Yeah.
No, it's really good. Oh, okay. So I have some fun things to talk about. So now is everyone good to move on to production?
Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah. Wow. Hold on.
So first of all, I know that we've talked a lot about the art department specifically.
busting their ass, working
yeah.
so hard, creating amazing
Just
things.
doing, just
It's the
absolutely
art
slaying it. Because
department.
and like I said, like, you know, Rivendell and Lothlorien feel so different even though they're the same race.
Yeah.
You know? It's like, I love it. But anyway, aside from the art department, I think the beauty of the movies comes a lot from the cinematography and the things that they do in order to evoke the emotions with the camera. Because I really, it's like I was talking about earlier with the whole, forced perspective thing and how they didn't need, moving shots. And they made it really difficult for themselves just having moving shots. It really wasn't necessary for them to do that. But they did it because they were like, no, this is the shot that needs to happen because
Pete
it's going to evoke,
totally
it adds to the drama.
uncompromising.
Yeah,
with his
uncompromising.
vision.
Yeah. And it's like it's gonna add to the drama. And if I don't have this moving camera, I'm not okay. It's gonna happen. And I love that they had such beautiful cinematography that was specifically catered to the story and not practicality or ease or budget or any of that. They were like, if
and
I want this one
pays
specific
off
shot, it's gonna
so
happen. And it's so
well.
good. I love that the fact that they were like, this shot is what I want. It's impractical. It's expensive. It's really hard. It's probably gonna take a couple weeks to plan. It's probably gonna take a couple days to shoot. We're doing it though to get this one shot. Continuing on the point of cinematography, though, that hero shot when they leave Rivendell and they're coming up over the hill and that gorgeous slow-mo shot with the music and the score just swelling and you're just like, oh, it's so good.
The music,
literally the best score. I will fight
time.
anyone who says that this is not the best score ever composed for a film series or film or TV show. I don't care.
Because Enya.
Literally every
I don't
time.
care.
Yeah.
This is why I always say,
Enya.
yeah, it does have Enya. And Howard Shore, in my opinion, I know that John Williams, Star Wars, all great. And I know I've said that I absolutely love
a million times. Get it,
Hans
John.
Zimmer.
No, I like John Williams.
But Howard Shore is the king of
The man.
scoring. He is.
What else did he do?
He did Eclipse.
Did he? Oh my god.
I'm still not over that.
And now I'm thinking, how brilliant and more interesting would these movies be if Danny Elfman wrote the score? If you say Danny Elfman had it,
No.
and thank God, I was like, please don't tell me.
I'm shook. I'm absolutely shook. Do you know who scored this film?
No.
Howard Shore.
No.
Really?
No, really? No way.
I'm shook. Howard
you
Shore, the
serious?
composer of Lord of the Rings, scored this film.
Oh, how the mighty have fallen.
Oh my god, I'm
still not over that. The fact that he scored one of the Twilight movies just literally makes me want to die.
What? But that was the
Don't
best
die,
score
Tree.
one, though. In fairness,
It
Eclipse
was,
did
but
have good music.
Oh my god, that was so funny. But anyway, so we were talking about Bill the Pony earlier. I have a funny point that I found out. So apparently, Bill the Pony, they actually did have a pony that, they cast a real pony, right? Except that a lot of the, scenes were over difficult terrain that was too dangerous for a pony to go over. And so they had 2 actors in a pony suit.
What?
So there really was a Bill the Pony.
When they're up on the mountains in the snow,
Yeah.
that was 2 actors in a pony suit.
Oh, I'm actually glad. So they were obviously
to be
very
an actor in a
sensitive.
pony suit.
They were obviously very sensitive of hurting the animals.
Literally, imagine you're, cast as an extra for Lord of the Rings. You're like, I'm going to be in Lord of the Rings.
Dude,
And
Your
you're
alright.
job
oh,
Bill
be
the
Hold on.
Pony.
is to be, no,
Oh,
not
to
only
be a
that,
pony
but to be the
actor
back
in
end
the
of
pony
the
suit.
pony.
Yeah, look,
No,
alright.
not just any pony.
You
You're
think to
walking
yourself,
through life being like, I was
Bill
the
the
back
pony.
end of the pony in Lord of the Rings.
I honestly would be so fucking proud of myself. I know you think like there's some extras in the background who get their actual face in it. I'd rather be one of the halves of Build a Pony, even the back arse of them. I'd be like, I fucking am. Hey, you're talking to a member of the 2-person council that is Build a Pony.
Build a Pony.
Also,
oh my God.
The last thing that I want to talk about in production, and then we can rate this one out of 10. Is
spoiler, they're all 10 out of 10s for me.
It's just the cast had just such a lovely vibe. Like they all were just vibing
I do get
constantly, and they all like most of them also didn't meet until like right before production and all that. But they just had such a good vibe, and they like you could tell you could feel their friendship in the movie.
Yeah,
cast
and you always hear about cast beefs on movies and all, but everybody in here was
there
proper
was literally no.
pals.
I feel like it's because they had to film all 3 movies.
Yeah,
I think that'd make you fucking more angry at some people. You
Did you ever go to school?
Yeah.
Wait, but
you go in, you're like, I'll fucking see you again. That's why you start taking days off. Nobody knows.
So actually, there was one thing that I wanted to talk about with regards to like still like kind of just talking about the art department because it's just they best art department ever. So in the costuming and all that. So apparently it took an hour and a half to apply the Hobbit feet. And the actors for the Hobbits had to come in at 4 a.m. every day and stand while they put the feet on because they
can't
couldn't
even sit down.
Because the way that your like ankles would move, like they had to be standing in order to like apply them correctly.
Oh, I hate that.
So yeah, and it was really funny because there's like apparently there was like beef, not real beef, but like beef between Sean Astin, who played Sam, and Peter Jackson, because every single time like Peter Jackson jokes about it too, and Sean Astin definitely comes out and says it several times that he's just like Peter Jackson's just like, oh, 100%. Sean Astin would like specifically mark down the days that like I forced them to put their feet on and their feet were not caught on camera. And then like it immediately in the documentary cuts to Sean Astin. It immediately cuts to Sean Astin being like, there were 53 days. What the fuck, Sean?
I don't blame him.
I'd be the same.
Yeah.
Oh, so, can you imagine what it was like to be on the set of Lord of the Rings?
I cry because I will never be able to have that
Sinead is on the set of Lord of the Rings. Look at her.
Imagine,
so good.
Imagine me and you, right? We're on the set of Silmarillion in the future, right?
Oh my god, I would die. But yeah, okay, so let's rate this one. I'd say this is gonna be hard because I would say like 10 out of 10 for all of them, and because it's not like Twilight where you actually could rate it and it would be like, it would mean something, you know. I don't know. Should we rate it or should we do something else for the end of?
What about how many Hobbit breakfasts?
How many double breakfasts?
So here's the thing about rating movies, okay?
Oh my god, we're not rating them.
We're cutting that bit out if we're going to keep talking.
When I give my rating for this movie, I want you to know it's a fully objective view, okay? There's no disagreeing with me. This is the honest truth, and there's no lie in it. It's 10 out of 10, and if you disagree, you are wrong. Simply.
Okay.
10 out of 10.
Yeah, because like I feel like I technically kind of agree. Like I don't think we should rate them because like I don't think it's gonna mean anything. Like literally, they're amazing. So, I don't know. We'll say
our favorite character.
No, but hold on. Sinead and Jess don't share our opinions, so they should rate it.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Wow.
So okay, everyone.
All right. Silenced there.
All right. So everyone knows mine and Adam's ratings. For
so
all
everyone
of these movies,
who thinks
obviously.
it's 10 out of 10, stay quiet, and then everyone who's wrong, tell us what you think.
So how about Sinead and Jess? What would you rate these movies?
Sinead, you go first.
Well, I feel I'll soften the blow for you, Jess.
Just the Fellowship.
For the Fellowship, I'm going to give it an 8, just because the other two I have like higher.
Okay.
A bit higher.
That's an acceptable answer.
That is very acceptable.
I'm gonna go strong 10 because of Hobbitness.
Really? Yeah.
I like this one, and I don't like the other two as much because there's not.
Oh, okay, we'll have to have a discussion about that later, but. Okay. Well, so yeah, let's all choose our favorite character, and then we'll take a break before we get to 2 and 3.
Okay. Who's gonna start?
I don't want to start because I don't
What,
know.
favorite character?
I feel like
Sam.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
always
That's
Sam.
fair. I like
Fair.
Sam.
Should we
Me-
do
me
it
and
movie
Sinead-
by movie?
yeah, we're gonna do it
Yeah,
after
I was
every
gonna say
movie.
movie by movie because I think
Oh,
in general
this
we'll also
one
choose
then is
our
very
overall
clear.
favorite character. Because I think in
Okay.
this one I would probably
Gandalf.
say Arwen.
Oh, Arwen.
Arwen.
Gandalf is my favorite in this one.
In this one, who is my favorite in this one? Who's your favorite, Jess?
That's not a question.
Is it?
There's
is
a
it
very
our boys?
obvious. It's our boys very.
Yeah, no, in this one, because in the second one they a little bit annoyed me. Not gonna lie, but this one they didn't.
They're a bit.
I'd say if we're doing it in order, it's probably gonna be Gandalf, Fellowship.
No, don't spoil
No,
it.
don't
spoil it.
spoil it. Yeah, wait till we
Oh.
get
We
to
have to
this.
do these episodes.
I'm thinking, I don't know. I mean, it's because I really like that they gave Arwen more of a story in the first one because she's barely in the first book. Like,
yeah,
it's a different
person-
Rivendell elf that brings Frodo to Rivendell. I really like that they gave Arwen like more of a role in the movie, and I like that she is a very like strong-willed like character.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, in the books, she's really barely there. And I like that they really kind of flesh out the whole like Aragorn. Arwen
As much
thing.
as I love Glorfindel, especially because the Silmarillion, like he does mad shit in Silmarillion, it was the correct decision to replace him with Arwen, because she needed more screen time as the main love interest for Aragorn.
You needed to care about her.
Yeah, exactly. And Glorfindel is, I hate saying this, but essentially inconsequential to the events of Lord of the Rings.
He really is.
So
But our little Hobbit boys are just great comic relief at times.
just
when
have
we
a
need
great
it.
100%. They definitely are the comic relief.
And I
I love when they're like at Weathertop and like Frodo
they
wakes up
try
and he's just
back
like,
to Boromir?
"What the fuck?"
Oh no,
And then he like
Weathertop's
looks over and he's
something
like, "What are you doing?" And
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Pippin and Merry are just like, "Well, we got some nice
Yeah.
tomatoes and some nice crispy
They're like
bacon."
making sausages, yeah. Yeah.
That's me.
And then
Sinead,
and then when Frodo's like, "No, put it out," and he starts stamping out, and
Yeah.
he's like, "Oh, that's nice ash in my tomato."
If anything, I think J.R.R. Tolkien is an anarchist king because he understands that power corrupts and therefore there should be no power.
Anyway, all right. Well, I think that was a really solid discussion for movie one. So
No kings,
we're
no
gonna-
masters. Oh, wait,
we're gonna
except
break.
Aragorn, he can be a king.
And just kind of move on into the Two Towers when we come back.
Two towers.
Hey guys, it's your girl editing Cassie coming at you to let you know that the first part of season 2 finale has come to a close. But don't worry, we'll be back next week with the second part to discuss the rest of the trilogy, so stay tuned.
For more content, you can find us on social media at The Movie Rats and online at themovierats.com.
New episodes up every other Sunday on Spotify.
The Movie Rats is produced by Dirty Bird Productions, as well as Adam Carr, Sinead Barrell, Jess Boylan, and Cassie Egger. Art by Kate Doyle, and music by Sinead Barrell.
Thank you for listening.